Direct did not spring, Alex O'Neill, but we did get a Direct in the fall. There it is. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nintendoland, a trip to Nintendoland. We're here in September, doing our September episode. The fall weather is here. I felt it today. It was pretty crisp here.
Yeah.
I was here for it. It's very nice. But hello, Alex O'Neill. Yeah, we're here again as always. The duo.
Mike, a pleasure. Yes,
yep, that's
back.
right.
There's plenty to talk about too.
Yes.
There was plenty to talk about last time, but now there's like
there's really a lot.
About.
Like we had a Nintendo Direct. Nintendo Direct happened as the opening bit implied. But that happened. It was a full featured 40-minute Direct. So we'll definitely talk about all the hotness that was in there. We went to PAX West and got COVID. That happened. That was fun, I guess, kind of. And then also a whole bunch of video games have like just come out of nowhere. I feel like some we knew about, some we just kind of came out of nowhere. And I think everybody's playing a lot of stuff. I definitely played a lot of stuff. I think we've all been playing a lot of stuff. It's really exciting.
Too.
Like Splatoon 3 was
I've been
here.
playing a lot of Switch games too.
Yeah, same here. I literally was playing some Splatoon 3 right before we started recording this. So definitely.
I was playing Shovel Knight Dig, baby.
Nice. I'm going to download that on my Steam Deck when it arrives. I have a Steam Deck en route. It's pretty exciting.
Nice.
So definitely, I'd be one of those weirdos that are not. I shouldn't say weirdos. That's too harsh. But be one of those people that's like, oh, here's indie game of the week. I'm playing it here on this handheld thing. Wow, look at that. Check the internet.
Nice, though.
Yeah.
There are so many indie games that I wish I could play that a Steam Deck would just be perfect for.
Yeah, exactly. I can't screenshot it here, but I just definitely have. I've had this block of like I don't know, like I would say like 8 to 10 roguelite games sitting on on my desktop screen that I've wanted to like play. Some I have played, but I've not jumped back into. That I'm like just like, oh, when I have the Steam Deck and they're all going to be downloaded on that, and I will probably actually start playing some of that stuff. So I'll probably talk about that maybe in a future episode. But for now, like we said, a Nintendo Direct happened. We're about like a week out from when that happened, right? That's like roughly. So yeah, it was a 40-minute Direct. It was a beefy boy. We finally got it after, and I wouldn't say a dry summer completely, but it's just obviously a weird summer. Because it wasn't Nintendo's usual status quo.
Tweet-filled summer.
And we not get that usual June Direct. So definitely people were putting a lot of stakes into this big fall one to, reveal a lot of stuff. There was a lot of rumors going into this Direct. So I think we can talk about that once we actually talk about what was in the actual Direct. I think we can talk about like maybe what wasn't there. So how do you want to start? Do we want to just start from the top, or do you want to start with something and shout out something as we go?
I feel like we can start from the top because
Sure.
it did start with a big one.
Yeah,
and I feel like people forgot about this.
I'll be completely honest. I forgot about it by the end of this 40-minute Direct, and then like a couple days later, days later, I was just like, oh right, this got announced, an entirely new mainline Fire Emblem for the Switch was like the opening of this Direct called Fire Emblem Engage.
We've talked about it quite a bit, obviously, because it leaked. We
did talk about that
of this game.
Yeah, there's straight up you could see this Joy-Con ass hair having red and blue haired protagonist. It's interesting.
VTuber protagonist.
It's interesting, and I think this is going to be a talking point I'll probably bring up a few times this episode, as we kind of get into this, what feels like the later / tail end of the Switch's
twilight years.
The twilight years of the Switch, where like this Fire Emblem game very much has that vibe to me of like it, and I don't mean it like as it looks bad. It just its premise of like. It is very fan servicing that it seems like the whole core concept is like you are literally summoning a astral projection ghost version of like popular Fire Emblem characters. And I bet there will probably be DLC for that Fire Emblem game where you can get more of those more popular characters to buy DLC. But they showed
For
like
sure.
they showed Marth more like obviously very explicitly and using like a bunch of the like fancier cutscenes and the gameplay reveal, and then like I think like there were some other ones that were like teased like Lynn, who's like a sword lady from an
Yeah.
earlier one. Like I saw Sigurd, like isn't Sigurd the dude with the big axe, battle axe? I think.
Yeah, and they showed like artwork at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, like this stencil style artwork that had a bunch of other characters like Lynn and stuff on there. And Ike, I think Ike was shown, and
Yep.
kind of all the big ones and some of the big side characters. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I will say, like, this is the one that I've been kind of touting of. Like, I think they're going to show this probably soon. It felt like they would. They did. Engage is a weird name. Not what I thought they would name this game,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
like seeing the gimmick and stuff, like summoning stuff, which they've obviously done in Fire Emblem games, but it was either like the mobile game
Yep.
or the Muso game. So now it's
Yes.
just like coming to a proper Fire Emblem game.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, earlier this year, I finally got around playing Three Houses, excuse me, and liked it, but that game's got a lot of problems. I think I am excited at the prospect. This looks like a very traditional, by the mission, by the books Fire Emblem game, and I'm very stoked for that. And it's out soon, January,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. It's out January 20th, so it's our first big 2023 game for Switch. Yeah, and it looks cool. Like I've definitely been Fire Emblem curious, but I've never really like taken the plunge. And I immediately don't know if this is the one that was like, okay, yeah, now it's my time to get in. I don't know, like I feel like that would have been Three Houses if it were any. And for whatever reason, I
Yeah,
don't know, this one's like not really catching me in a way that's like, all right, I'll finally jump into this series. Like I don't know why, but
sure.
it doesn't not necessarily looks bad. Maybe it's just not for me, and that's totally fine. But yeah, it looks like a big full fledged Fire Emblem game, and I'm impressed. Like I guess Three Houses was 2018, so it has been a couple years, but or was it 2018
Hmm.
or 2019? I can't remember.
I think it's 2018.
Yeah, it sounds right.
So yeah, it's been a little while, and yeah, I think this actually like weirdly looks visually very good. It looks much
Yeah,
better than some of the other Fire Emblem games. Like it kind of looks out, and then there's plenty of room after this to talk about the potential of a new piece of Switch hardware coming out before May of next year. If we can
yeah,
get there, but
sure.
but I don't know if it's going to be like out January 20th or whatever. But yeah, it does look very good. It looks like noticeably better than like Three Houses and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely curious about that one. And it's cool to see like hey, we're that leaked and it's a real whole ass thing, and it's actually not it's like that far away in the grand scheme of things. Like it's just January, like you said. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
feels good.
That opened up the show. After that, we got like a series of like smaller things. I think we can kind of quickly go through these. Like It Takes Two is coming to Switch in November. That would be an interesting Switch game, I guess. I'm curious how they'll run because it is like a nice looking game. Yeah,
Yeah,
these are my notes. Also, if you're probably looking through them now,
I'm noticing now.
yeah,
Yeah,
these were like for your reference. I wrote these like real time as I was watching it and just put them in the doc so we could use it. And this was like they had like a new voiceover guy for this direct compared to the other ones, and it threw me off so much just like hearing this like he just sounded a little different. Like he wasn't bad, but it was just like I was just like this is weird. Is a direct really happening right now? Because it's like completely different voice from the dude who's been doing it for years. But that threw me off. Then we had a Fatal Frame game. I didn't write down the full name, but it is cool because apparently it's one of those ones that like it's been out. It came out in Japan like years ago. I think I think it was like last generation. Like it might have been even PS3. And it never
Mask
came.
of the Lunar Eclipse.
Yeah, and it never came to the West. But so now it's kind of like a remastering and also a release to the West. That's out next year, so that's cool. That Fatal Frame is still chugging along. We got a look at a really weird looking Xenoblade character. It's like a new hero. Is like the next DLC for that game, Xenoblade 3. And I did not like the design
Did
of that
not like.
character at all.
Do not.
It
I
looks-
hate it. They showed
Yes.
like her like on the field, like full body, and her head is like so weirdly disproportionate to her body.
Yeah, because she's like a
unnerving.
it's like a robot, and then like it reminds me like if you ever you can go look up like weird PS2 creative characters and how that works, and it looks and how like weirdly you can dysmorph those bodies. Like it looks like if somebody made like a bad character creator, a Phantasy Star character. That was very weird. Then we had like we had a little montage of stuff. We the SpongeBob platformer that's like a new one was in there, which that looks kind of cool. I might actually try that. There's a fitness boxing game with Fist of the North Star. It was so bizarre. Then some indie games like Oddballers, and then Tunic also coming to Switch. Definitely recommend playing Tunic when it comes to Switch if you haven't played it somewhere else.
For sure.
It's a great game.
One of the best games this year. Hands down.
Yeah, then we had some old school remakes, like Front Mission is getting a bunch of remakes. It's like a tactical mech game that was from a couple years ago. All three of them are coming basically. They're like spread out, so it'll be like the first one's in early next year, the second one's in spring, and then the third one will come out at some point later than that, I think is what they were saying. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Story Seasons or Harvest Moon is getting it's like a remake of like one of the old ones.
Yeah, it's a remake of the GameCube Harvest Moon.
Gotcha.
Story Seasons, A Wonderful Life. Yeah, which is I've not played any Harvest Moon games, but a lot of people are very excited about this one.
Yeah, I've heard that's a pretty good one. And then we got some Splatoon 3 updates. It's basically just saying like, hey, this game's obviously out now, and we'll definitely talk about it once we're talking about games. And the day it's actually the big announcement was the first Splatfest, which is actually the day we're recording this. So that's like literally about to start, like minutes away from where we're recording this. So I'll actually probably
that's right at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I'll probably actually jump into that after we're done recording because I've been having enough fun with that game.
Me too.
Yeah. But the next announcement, which honestly, like for me personally, was like kind of my biggest announcement or like surprise announcement that excited me the most, and that's Octopath Traveler 2. It's a video game, and it's out February.
This one didn't leak. Nintendo said, pointing their finger.
Yeah, they're like, finally, it's surprisingly Square Enix too, where like they've had a lot of stuff leak recently as well. So this is cool to see that, like, this is like all of a sudden it's like, boom, here's Octopath Traveler 2. It's a similar setup of here's eight playable characters that you will jump between playing as, and they're like completely different characters. Like it does, so we don't really know if it's like connected to Octopath Traveler 1 in any way. Like I don't know if any of those characters could show up or if this takes place like in that same world or whatever. But yeah, this looked. I was very impressed with like the kind of showing in that. Like I liked all the characters. All the characters look really cool. Like there was like this kind of like I liked the vibe of the world because it wasn't like it wasn't full on just like fantasy realm like how a lot of it is where it's kind of more medieval fantasy. It was like almost like industrial like early America like looking kind of fantasy, which is kind of really interesting. Like you don't really see a lot of stuff like that, so I kind of like that whole like changing up the time period that all that stuff is taking place in.
There's like a eastern looking area as well. One of the characters starts in like a pagoda and stuff going on there. Yeah,
it just looks fantastic. Definitely something I noticed too, which I know is the thing that some people didn't like about the first game. It didn't necessarily bother me personally, but there was like, a big thing was like a lot of the main characters did not kind of interact as much in the first Octopath Traveler. And they very deliberately in this trailer showed a lot of sequences of like, here are these sequences that are like literally the whole point of them are like, here is like a mini sequence that has these three characters from their different points, like actually meeting and like conversing with each others and going through like a sequence together. And like they're actually like, it's a more traditional, like them like actually doing things. So that's pretty cool. I think that's like a cool way to do it, or like try and tie it together. Unless who knows? I didn't get like a whole gist of the story. Maybe there will be more connecting tissues, but like something I personally really liked kind of that aspect to Octopath Traveler, just because it gave you a lot more time with each character individually and let them be more characters rather than like what I think can happen a lot of times in JRPGs and with those tropes of just like, hey, you kind of meet this character and then you have their storyline and then you have then you learn about this character, and then when they join your party, they just become like an exposition person, and they're just like another like avenue of giving an exposition to this larger story, rather than them being able to be like a character with like different things going on. And that's something I kind of appreciated about Octopath Traveler, was that like, even though this character really didn't, even though like one of the characters couldn't interact at all, it let this one character be kind of the forefront, and you got like a lot deeper connection, at least I had, with some of those like different characters, because they could focus on that individual story rather than a larger story that goes off somewhere else. But I think they could still figure out a way to blend it. So I'm curious how they'll blend it and blend that kind of stuff.
It's all the balancing act. Yeah, they like one of the bullet points in that trailer is like interconnected character stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal for me for sure. It's cool. You've got all the refinement to the HD 2D looking visuals. You've got full voice acting. It comes out February as well. Just dropping it out of nowhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Which sorry, rest in peace, Lightfall. Not gonna
that's true.
Not gonna touch Lightfall. Yeah, it's 4 days before Lightfall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. Well,
that's the thing. We're in that again, where it's like, God, why is the first 3 months of every year got to be fucking stacked?
Yeah. That's what it's really become now. Yeah. It feels like it's kind of just at this point that it's just kind of almost nonstop, where it feels like you hit a certain point in fall, and even fall and winter have a lot of stuff, and then you're like, all right, well now we'll slow down a little bit. Is the next year? Nope. It's Fire Emblem.
Just the last weeks of December is really what it slows
February.
down.
I'm pretty sure there's something already in March that I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head.
You got First Spoken got delayed till January.
First Spoken's
so
in March, right? So there's probably more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking
it looks
forward to
good.
that. I'm definitely
cool surprise.
Cool, yeah, it was a cool surprise. I like that first game a lot, so I'm excited to do that again with a new cast of characters. I think it'd be really good. From refining from that first game for sure. We get another farm game called Fae Farm that was after that, which like it was more like fantastical. excuse me. Kind of one of those, and I like this one has like it was more like multiplayer co-op, like it showed like you and three other players running around doing all the farming and RPG kind of elements together. So that was kind of neat. But I think that's all they showed of that. Then they showed Theater Rhythm coming to Switch. Now I'm not sure if this is like. I mean, I granted, I guess these are like I don't think this is like a port necessarily. Like I think it's weird because I wasn't the other Theater Rhythms like already this game kind of already because it had all the Final Fantasy music in it. Like there's like one or two, right?
There's 3 Theater Rhythm games. 2 came here. The third one, the Dragon Quest one, never actually came to the US.
I see.
And yeah, this seems like it's probably like maybe a collection of the first 2, but those were DS games or 3DS games, so they had to redo all the controls and stuff for this. So I imagine there's like a lot that's touched up here, but it is probably like a lot of the same songs.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at. Like it's like I wasn't 100% sure if like because it had like I forget the name, like the full name of it, because it had like Theater Rhythm, like
Final Bar Line.
Final Bar Line. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if so. Like I guess in some way because it is probably like it's all Final Fantasy music. They said there was over 500 songs for this freaking game, which is kind of nuts. Yeah. So like I will more than likely be those initial games.
It's gonna be a season pass as well.
Yeah. They said there was like post-launch support. That's like other Square games. Like they showed near music and Octopath Traveler and Live Alive music will come to the game. So that's cool. That's February as well. So yeah, I wonder if I mean there is already that Kingdom Hearts music game, but I wonder if Kingdom Hearts music would come to that too at some point. I'm curious.
Yeah. We'll see.
Because that'd be a pretty crazy collection if they actually were able to do that. So yeah, that was that set, and then we jumped on. We got another look at Mario plus Rabbids: Sparks of Hope. That continues to look really good. I'm really stoked for that game.
Yeah.
I was looking.
Previews just came out for this.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna talk on, was that like a bunch of previews came out and people like went to a little event to play it. We're not cool enough for that, but I just watched a bunch of people that went to it and like listened to their impressions, and they definitely seem pretty positive on it. Like the thing that I came away with that sounded pretty cool was that like it sounds like they really took a lot of the criticisms of the first game and like focused on improving those kind of aspects of like, you know, having things where, you know, the world you're exploring like from battle to battle is much more expansive, because in the first game it was very linear. It's like you're just kind of going from battle to battle more or less, and there's like little collectibles or little simple puzzles on the side, but the whole thing now looks like these are much more open environments and you can more freely walk around. You can have more options with your party, because in the first game you always had to have Mario on your team plus 2 other characters, where it looks like in this one now you can be any combination. Like you can be 3 Rabbids, or you could be Bowser and 2 other characters or whoever. Like it seems like you can just kind of, you know, swap all that kind of stuff up. So yeah, it sounds like they're doing all the right stuff. Because that game was good. But you know, there were definitely people had some gripes with it. It seems like what they tried to polish a lot with this version is making sure all of the other things around the fun kind of tactical combat-y stuff they had is much more engaging. So it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked for that. It's pretty soon here. It's only a couple weeks. It's like October or something. I forget exactly, but it's pretty soon.
Plus, we're getting that Rayman DLC finally.
Yes, yep, they did.
Rayman and Mario.
Rayman and Mario. That'll be one of the. I think that'll be like the last DLC pack is like a Rayman expansion. That's pretty cool. They didn't show too much, so they just kind of teased it. But I'm very curious to see what that is. And it's kind of funny to think that like the Rabbids were an offshoot of Rayman at one point in video games. And now Rayman is being treated as an offshoot by being added into a Rabbids game with Mario. Sheesh.
Yep. We've come a long way from the depressed Raven Rabbids era that we came from.
Yeah, that is for sure. But yeah, that game. Yeah, I'm stoked for that game. I'll definitely be picking it up and playing it when it comes out. Rune Factory is, once again, another farming game. Rune Factory 3 is on Switch, which I think that's like a port of an older one coming to Switch, because I thought they like put out Rune Factory 5 or 6 or something a while ago.
Yeah, they put out Rune Factory 4 in 2020 and then 5 I think earlier this year.
Okay.
And then now they're putting 3 out, which feels weird. Yes. Yeah, and then they're like, hey, also we're maybe making more Rune Factory.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's just they sell well on Switch would be my guess. It's like, oh yeah, these sell well. Let's just keep putting these on Switch and people will buy them. So that's cool. Yeah, that's not a series I've ever really checked out or had interest in, but you know, it's there for people who want it. It's cool.
Yeah, I'd maybe check out one of the newer ones, but you know, maybe there's 3 that has a special place in someone's heart.
Yeah, they have nostalgia for it for sure. After that, we got a Nintendo Switch Online update where they basically gave us like not only they basically just gave us the next big set of Nintendo Switch N64 games that are coming over the next probably I think it's like 6-7 months. A bunch of stuff. Yeah. The 3 original Mario parties from N64 are going to be on Nintendo Switch Online. That is very exciting to me.
Yeah. Look forward to that stream.
look forward to a stream where we do 50 turns and 1 all in a row. Mario Party 1 through 3 Gauntlet. 150.
That would literally be a full 12-hour day.
Which we're doing it one day.
Jesus Christ.
This
buckle up, I guess.
The true day of suffering will be upon us.
This is where like I feel like we started getting into like the fever dream territory of the direct. I don't know if that's how you felt, but that's how I felt.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like it's just a whole bunch of stuff just kind of popping off, or
the Goldeneye pop off was where it like
yeah.
started getting very weird for me.
Yeah. The surprise, that was kind of the big surprise kind of ending announcement, that is Goldeneye is finally coming to Nintendo Switch online, so you'll be able to play it online with people. I think it's for next year is when it's coming, presumably.
Yeah,
and it will have online play on Nintendo
on
Switch. Yeah, only on Switch apparently, because it will be there will be like a 4K remastered version on Xbox. And Game Pass.
Yeah,
that won't have online, and people are people are assuming that's happening because how the online stuff for Nintendo Switch Online is like baked into the game, or baked into the online kind of system they have. It's not like individual for each game. That's why they're probably getting away with it, and it's probably also like that online. That also probably means that like when you would play online, excuse me, with people, you'd probably still get a box, like a 4-player split screen box of people, and people just kind of basically like controlling each box, and your screen peeking across the internet over people through that. That's something.
Bringing it back.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see like if people really get in on that, or if it's just kind of going to be how I feel like a lot of this online Switch games and even like Game Pass, sometimes when they bring up like these retro games, it's a lot of people just going, "Oh, cool," and then they play it for 10 minutes and then never touch it again.
Yeah.
But you know, it's cool that it's there. I think you know, so again, now we can touch on some of the other games too, like Pilot Wings, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, and 1080 Snowboarding are also some of the other games that are going to be coming out over the next couple months. And I think like, hey, that's like a good lineup of games. It's games that, you know, make sense and they should put on there. No, I would say like the only really other one I think would be cool if they could get on there is Smash 64. That could be really cool if they could get that on there at some point.
I feel like that's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, that looks cool. I'm glad all these games are coming. I definitely say, yeah, obviously the ones I'm probably most excited about are the Mario Party ones. I think that'll be really fun, just to have those easily accessible online to play with people. Even though Mario Superstars exist, and I wish you know, this probably means we're probably not actually ever going to get DLC for that game.
Such a missed opportunity.
Really is.
We're getting free updates for Mario Strikers adding characters, and we can't get a goddamn map for Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah, just like a single map or something like that would have done so much for a lot of that game. I still like that game and would still be happy to play some of it, but just it is it's still such a missed opportunity, just not making DLC for that game in any capacity. So bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay, and once we got past that, we got a bunch of handful of smaller announcements. The various day life shadow dropped. I think that's like another kind of more like farm simming RPG kind of thing from Square.
I don't know if this game existed before this direct.
I'm pretty sure this was a 3DS game. It was like it was a very late 3DS game, and now this is like them porting it over to Switch. Because I remember
that makes more sense.
Or no, you know what I think it was? I think it was an Apple Arcade game. That was an Apple Arcade game, and then now or some kind of mobile game, and then it came to Switch. Because I remember hearing this name before.
Yeah, it was an Apple Arcade game. Yeah,
because it was made by a pretty well known like Square Enix person, I thought.
Yeah, you were 100% correct. September 19th, 2019. It's pre-pandemic. Of course, no one remembers this game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was for the before time.
Basically, might not have existed. You know.
Yeah, because was made by that group who did like Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler. Because the thing that I did not realize. Oh, sorry, I lost you. Oh, I think you're.
Oh, it's my camera. Yeah.
The thing was that like those 3 games have like the same kind of logo, like in font work that like I didn't realize that, and then somebody pointed me out because I was like making a joke at one point because I saw like what was it like I saw all of them, somebody like posting them all together in screenshots, and it's just like I was like, wow, they really just like went to the same Photoshop file and just like changed the name, huh? And they was like, that's because it's named by
They
the
got a
same people.
good.
And it's like, okay, sure, okay, that makes more sense, I guess. Just keep the theme.
They got a good serif font package, and they're like, "We're fucking using
yeah,
this.
we're using
all
this.
right?
We spent the money.
No sans serif in this house.
Yeah.
All right,
Exactly. No italicizing over here, motherfuckers. Some Square Enix represents manager said to somebody. But after that, we got like I guess like you could technically consider this another farming game, but it was Factorio is coming to Switch. I'm kind of really curious how that'll work because that's like a big like PC like management kind of column-y sim-esque like game. So I'm super curious how that'll play on Switch. So that'll be interesting. This next one was a super weird game that I didn't know about, but then once it was shown, kind of blew me away that like they're putting this on Switch. This is is from 2012. It's a freeware. It was a freeware like game that was like put out like it was like literally an RPG Maker game, and it came out like years and years ago. It was literally 2012, and they just and apparently it was like just one of those weird things where like back then it was just like a weird cult kind of fan following for this weird RPG Maker game, and it got so popular that now they've remade it with like a proper, it's like quote unquote proper video game, and are like putting it out. Like it came out on Steam recently, and now they're putting it out on Switch. So that's a really interesting one. It was a weird deep cut to see that exist.
That is a deep cut
that I didn't realize because I remember just seeing the director like, what the hell is this? And then I looked it up and was like, whoa, weird. Sure, why not? And then the next thing up, like you mentioned, Mario Strikers got its next set of DLC characters and updates. It got Pauline and Diddy Kong. I think it got announced during the direct, but I think they are now out. Like I think you can go download those for free in the game now. If you're into that, I'm probably not gonna ever play that game again. Sadly, it's definitely a little disappointing. But but yeah, that's just where it is with Mario Strikers on Switch. After that, we got Atelier Ryza 3. And I just wrote down, man, the devs sure did play some Genshin Impact since the last one came out. Because it just
that's so real.
Because you just watch that trailer and just some of the shots and like the visuals of that game in particular, just the way it looked way more Genshin. They had like the character like kind of gliding or like right across water on creatures, and just the whole vibe of that trailer was just like wow, yeah, okay. Genshin is pretty much going to influence a lot of Japanese games from here on out, huh? Like that was kind of that realization of like, yeah, that's just going to be how it is for a while. But that's cool. That's like the third game in that series. I'm guessing it's like definitely the most popular Atelier game. There's definitely like a certain vibe to it that's like had me a little curious of ever checking one of these out. So I know it's like, because I know it's like a JRPG, but it's like way more like, I think the whole point of it when I heard people kind of pitching it is that like it is very much intentionally more like a slice of life kind of take on a JRPG rather than like it's not a thing where like you start playing and then halfway through it's like, oh, we gotta fight God now. Oh fuck, shit's going bad. Yeah. It's more just like here's some kids like living their lives and just having a good time, whatever. Make some potions. You're like an alchemist or whatever.
You run the shop that the adventurers use, so it's kind of like that's the vibe. That's what they're going for. So you just are going out getting stuff, so adventurers can use your store, which it's fun. I've never played them. I know Tony Horvath has previously of IPP, and he dug them. So I don't know.
Cool.
This one looks good. I'll say, like
definitely
in general, like
stepping up in visuals for sure.
Yeah, and the combat looks a lot more engaging and stuff. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Excited for those people to get a third one of those. I think that's early next year too. Yes, February next year. So definitely a lot of stuff.
Same day as Octopath 2.
In February. Boy, oh boy. Next one, exciting. I was stoked for this as always because we got a little sneak peek of the Wave 3 of Mario Kart 8 DLC. Got to see 2 tracks from it. This also very much confirmed the leaks we talked about in the last episode because these 2 tracks were among the ones that were in that leak and were also slated to be in this wave, how like data miners kind of figured it out. The 2 tracks we saw were Merry Mountain, which is the Mario Kart Tour track. It's like a Christmas themed track. It looked visually amazing. I really like the glow up that track got. Not to mention, it looks like, I think the thing that made me excited about it is that there's like a few brief clips in there that show it has anti-grav, so they add anti-grav into the track. And also something that was in Mario Kart Wii and Tour were half pipes, where basically like you can like go up a half pipe and do a trick and you come back down and you get like a big boost. Those are in that track now. So this will be kind of the first track that gets proper half pipes in Mario Kart 8. And that was the thing that people were very much like, this. I don't know if they'll ever put this in, if they will do that. But they did do it. Like there's a scene in the trailer where you see Mario straight up in anti-grav already going up a half pipe and doing a trick and coming back down. So that's pretty cool that they're like kind of getting that kind of mechanic. That was really a big thing in Mario Kart Wii specifically. And it's also in Tour for some tracks. So that's cool that more than likely if we get more Wii tracks in the future, they could potentially get kind of those kind of treatments and get some like half pipes and other things like that. And they are also combining like the half pipes to have like work with anti-grav and the stuff that works in Mario Kart 8. So that was just like those quick little sequences like, okay, yes, this is what I want to see, that they're like continuing to enhance this DLC and grow upon it rather than, kind of the initial fears of like getting that first wave and being like, there's not a lot of anti-grav here. These do kind of feel more like ports rather than them kind of kind of thinking these tracks in the thoughts of them being Mario Kart 8 tracks, right? So it seems like they're finally kind of getting to that point with these tracks, and that's exciting. The other track they showed was originally a DS track. So boy, howdy, did it get a glow up in the visual department. Yeah. It's Peach Gardens. That's awesome. Peach Gardens for DS. It's a very fun track. It's, the whole premise is like you're going through like a hedge maze kind of garden area that's like next to one of the Peach's castles. And there's a whole like area where you're going through hedge mazes and there's chain chomps bouncing around. So you're like having to like weave through the big hedge maze bushes, but also looking, hopefully you go the right way and not run into big chain chomp jumping around in there. That one, visually now looks amazing. Like, holy crap, there's like big Mario and Peach and Mario character like hedge clippings that were like very much not there in the original version. It definitely looks like a very nice looking track now because it's in Mario Kart 8 now. So that's really cool. They just kind of showed us those 2 tracks. And they said it's a holiday this year, so I'm guessing it's probably like very end of November, early December would be my guess for that kind of release. But yeah, like I said, this also with these 2 tracks were with the leak that happened with the last DLC where we got a bunch of music tracks or little tiny music clips from that were like left in the game that like data miners are able to find, and they kind of been able to now piece together like, all right, these tracks are going to be in this next wave, and then these tracks are the kind of remaining ones will probably be sprinkled throughout the rest of the DLC. So like they kind of have already named the 8 tracks that were in the next wave, and these 2 tracks were named in those waves. So it pretty much confirms the next wave is like going to be that data mine, which is actually kind of exciting because like the Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 7 is in those 8, and that's like one of the best, I think still one of my top favorite Mario Kart tracks of all time. Waluigi Stadium from GameCube is probably also in there as well. So yeah, that'll be a really good wave of Mario Kart DLC for sure. I'm pretty stoked for that.
Merry Christmas
to everyone. It's very exciting. So after that, Miyamoto revealed himself to us in the Nintendo Direct. And yeah, I guess you could say maybe this is where it went off the rails, because it's always goes into weird places when Miyamoto shows up. It's usually how it goes.
I love it. He's just like a derailment machine.
Yeah, like he's just because he is like head creative fellow. I still think is that his title still or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's just like clearly he's just like the guy who's been there for so long. They just let him do whatever he wants, and so he basically just came on and tried to. Yeah, he basically just came on and just hustled a bunch of Pikmin stuff, and then revealed that Pikmin 4 is going to be a real video game that releases finally, and it'll be next year. They just put 2023
allegedly next year.
Pikmin 4. He also he hustled like here's the Pikmin mobile game that's like kind of like Pokemon Go, Pikmin Bloom. Here, please play it. And he spent a little bit more time.
Here's what it is. You guys don't care. It. You're planting flowers. Why don't you care?
Come on, please garden with me. Yeah, it's just like come on. We're really trying to push that for sure. Which is it's funny. It's
very funny.
Yeah, he talks some theme park stuff of being like, hey, yeah, theme parks are coming along. The movie and all that stuff's coming. He kind of gave that little spiel. And then he showed. We didn't get to see like a whole like extended gameplay or anything like that for Pikmin 4. They mainly just showed like a screenshot of like very much a pink looks like Pikmin. You're a little space cadet looking character and got little Pikmin characters following you, and there's a big bulb orb. And I think the cool thing that like stood out to me that I've seen people point out is like it looks like you're in an actual like backyard almost, rather than like other Pikmin where you're like in like a deep forest and like there's no real signs of like human life or anything like that. Where this was straight up like you could see like like a bench in the background and a tool shed and other things like that. So I'm curious about that kind of stuff. I think it's a cool idea and direction to go finally with that game.
Yeah.
I'll ask you. I don't know if I really don't know because I don't think Pikmin's come up too much as a game on the podcast really. But were you like into those? Mm-hmm. Are you into those games, or like are you interested in this, or where are you at?
I love Pikmin 1. I'm obsessed over it. Nice. I really wanted to love Pikmin 2. But that game, it's got that whole cave problem where like you just go into a cave and it's like, all right, wave 1 of 50. I'm like, Jesus, all right, I gotta keep these little critters alive. I don't know if you've ever played Pikmin 2, but it is brutal. I tried Pikmin 3 and bounced off of it. Scott Guthier swears by Pikmin 3, says it's great. I got to give it another shot.
Yeah.
I would like to potentially go back to it, but I don't know. I don't know if Pikmin's for me anymore, but I don't know. I'm curious like what they would do to make Pikmin fresh again. I just really like the kind of simplicity of that first game of just you gotta get all the ship parts before time runs out. Like I just think that's a great idea. It worked really well in that game. The levels were really good and there was a good variance. If they did a game like the first Pikmin again, which I feel like if Miyamoto's involved, they never will. No offense to Miyamoto, I just know his kind of steez. Then I would be down, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to gain any traction on this one from a single screen.
Yeah, that's
I'm hopeful though. It looks great.
Yeah, I definitely think. Yeah, I definitely think the visuals of it definitely stood out. I'm like, wow, this looks really nice, and I like the kind of more detailed in the environment that they were showing. I only ever played Pikmin 3, so I'll say I did like Pikmin 3. I played it back on the Wii U when it came out on the Wii U. Shout out to the Wii U. Definitely tapped on that screen a whole bunch playing Pikmin 3. I will say like it's hard to think back about any particular moments that I really stood out to me in Pikmin 3 because granted that was a number of years ago. But I do remember liking it still. But yeah, like this is interesting. Do you think at all this is the Pikmin 4 that Miyamoto just randomly mentioned like years and years ago in an interview? Or, like it can't be, right? Like it has to be just like
no.
Like if people said it too much and like have said it enough now where he like randomly said it in an interview and is like and somebody was just like Miyamoto, like we're actually not doing that. And I just kind of went silent for
it's
a while.
Yeah, it's almost done.
Yeah,
it's almost done, you guys.
Yeah,
we don't even know what the hell you're talking about, old man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you even doing, man? What in the world? But yeah,
that was
I
Pikmin
agree.
Bloom. He fever dreamed it, you know.
that was it the whole time. Yeah, it was on a mobile game. I promise. I put it on the phone. It's Pikmin 4. Come on. That's Miyamoto just yelling in a room. But yeah. I think I'm in a similar boat of like, what I don't know what they would do with the 4 to like totally reinvent the wheel. I think like, I don't remember if Pikmin 3. I think Pikmin 3 had some kind of co-op in it.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
2 had co-op as well. But
did it? Okay. Because that was trying to think I was thinking of like
Pikmin 3 had 4-player co-op was a big thing.
Did it have? Okay, that's what I was about to say. Like, I guess because granted, I didn't have friends because I was playing a Wii U back then. So that was the main reason I didn't have friends was because I was playing Wii U games.
No one played Pikmin 3 with another person.
Exactly. Never, ever. I won't believe it. You could show me a TV, somebody live on a stream doing it. I won't believe it. But that's what I was.
Show me rooftop party.
Honestly, it
was fake.
Yeah, because I didn't remember that at all. Because that was honestly going to be the thing I would mention for Pikmin 4. It's like, yeah, Pikmin 4, 4-player co-op. You can squad up with 3 other friends, and you can all have your own Pikmin. I'm sure you can. I'm sure they'll have some new versions of Pikmin in this. Like you'll get your, I don't know, you have a mole Pikmin, and you can dig around or something. I don't know.
Sure, I feel like they might get into weird stuff like that. That's like less colored Pikmin and more like weird changes, like rock Pikmin kind of were in 3.
I would like giant Pikmin. So you have like a giant one that's like absolutely massive, and it'll fight like bigger enemies for you or something. That'd be silly and fun. But yeah, I'm curious about that. And again, that'll be next year. That feels like it'll be an easy, like probably summer game. Summer 2023 would be my bet for that. But after that,
every franchise gets new life on the Switch. So
yeah,
if there's a time to do it, it's the time is now. Plus, Pikmin 3 is 20% off on Switch eShop
really?
now.
Nice. Yeah, Pikmin 3 Deluxe. That's maybe worth checking out. After that, we got Just Dance. That was the Just Dance still thing. I will say I'll give this a shot because it looked like they're just finally doing away with like, we're gonna put this game out every year. This looks like it was just like here's a fully fledged like online Just Dance online. I think is what they like. It was called like something like that, where it seems like it'll just be like a thing they just perpetually update from here on. So that could be something, I guess. After that, another farming game. I think this might have been the last farming game in the direct. We finally reached the end of the farming. Well, that was Harvestella. They announced that a demo came out, which we've played. You can go on youtube.com/irrationalpassions and see me and Alex, us two right here, play through like the opening bits. Like it's like, I think it was like almost like the first hour or so of the demo we played. I think you played the rest of it, so we'll probably talk about some more.
I've since played the rest of it, so we'll talk about it. It's good.
Yeah. It definitely piqued my interest as well. So I'm curious to hear how it evolved post that demo, because we definitely got a lot of exposition in that opening parts, as always.
Yeah.
But and the cool thing with that, like with like every Square Enix demo that's on, especially on Switch, like you can transfer the save data from that demo into like the full game releases. Man, like it's kind of crazy to think like Square Enix just has so many freaking games coming out right now. Like,
yes,
because Harvestella is like out.
Geofield Chronicles came out this week, and then Valkyrie Elysium comes out next week.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then like Harvestella is like November or something, right? Or is that October?
November 4th, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like not that far away. Then they have Crisis Core, the Final Fantasy remake, 7 remake.
That's December.
Yeah. Like they're nonstop. It's kind of crazy how much stuff they coming out. After that, we got another Bayonetta 3 trailer that continues to still look really good. I mean, again, we were at PAX, so we definitely heard a lot of people doing like they had like a Bayonetta preview of some kind behind closed doors. Again, we're not cool enough to be there, but I definitely talked to a lot of people, other press people who went and saw that, and where they were very hype on it. They said that was a good demo that they played, and it seems like that'll be a really good game. So I'm definitely excited for that still. Another game after that they showed, which was kind of cool, is called Rain Code. This will be a I guess murder and murdery mystery game from the Danganronpa creators.
Yeah, this is. I had not. I don't know if this had been announced before. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it had. No.
Danganronpa, very, very good, very underappreciated. If you have not checked it out, if you like visual novels and murder mysteries, yeah, I'm very interested in this one. It's got that vibe. It's got kind of like this weird behind the back adventure game, detective style game. So I'm curious if it'll like evolve on some of the Danganronpa formula.
Yeah, it looked like it also had some like more like combat-y stuff in there as well. Like I saw them like fighting some kind of ghost, and you're like, it looked almost JRPG-ish, but also you were in like a battle formation like a JRPG, but then like you as the character were like dodging attacks and stuff. So like it definitely looked a little interesting. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I know, like you said, like I know like Danganronpa is like it has like a kind of almost like cult status. I'd feel like where there's a lot of fans that are really into it. That seemed pretty neat. So it's cool that they're doing something a little different, maybe trying something different. So I'm curious to hear more about that. And I think that's just sometime next year. After that, we got our Resident Evil Village is getting a cloud version on top of all the other Resident Evil games. So it's like Resident Evil 7 and the 2 and 3 remakes are all getting cloud versions coming to Switch. And sure, I guess. I don't buy cloud versions of video games. I really like. I guess if you only have a Switch, I get maybe you have no other way to play this, but still think this is not really a great way to play it.
Don't do this to yourself.
Yeah, agreed. After that, we got some more montages of stuff like Sifu's come to Switch. Like I mentioned, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII. Radiant Silver Guns, like a shoot 'em up that got shadow dropped. Endless Dungeons, like a co-op roguelite that was in there. And then we got Tales of Symphonia is going to be remastered for the Switch. And it's early 2023. Oh, it already came out on Switch, did it?
No, it was remastered for the PlayStation 3.
Oh, I see. Okay.
they're just remastering it again.
Yep, again.
But the funny thing about the PS3 remaster is that's like both Tales of Symphonia games. They've like hard dropped the sequel. Like, don't worry about that game. Like, nobody likes that game anyway.
Yeah, no one liked it. So here's just the first one. Everyone liked that one. That's cool. I'll admit I never really played a Tales game in general. So, but I know Symphonia was one that like people are fond of, for sure. So maybe I'll give that a shot one of these days. We'll see.
It's definitely an old, it's like a 2001, 2002 game.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's got like a fun cast of characters. It's got a good combat system. I heard that like this version of the game looks like it's not going to run at 60 FPS, which means the only version of the game that runs at 60 FPS is the GameCube version.
Hell yeah, really baby. Funny. Let's go. I should buy that on GameCube then, I guess.
or the PC version of.
Is there a PC version too? Got it.
Yeah, that was the PS3 version that came out a while ago. It came to PC as well. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
Cool. I was gonna say also the Crisis Core got a release date. That was like what was new
really?
with that trailer they put out.
A proper date.
So that's just December 13th. That's very exciting. I'm
cool.
Very much looking forward to playing that.
That's the day before my birthday. Nice. So yeah, that's cool. After that, we got another like the true final montage. Showed the Life is Strange remasters are still coming. Romancing Saga, Lego Brick Tales was also coming to Switch. I was actually kind of curious about that. It looked kind of neat. Disney Speedstorm coming at some point. The Disney kart racing game. Fall Guys, a new season of Fall Guys is starting soon. I think it may have already started. Then after that we had our two final announcements. The first one was another Kirby game is being ported to Switch. It is Kirby Return to Dreamland. This was the Wii Kirby game, which was like the first 4-player kind of Kirby game. 4-player co-op Kirby game. I actually really like this Wii. I actually really liked it. I played it on Wii when it came out. Return to Dreamland. It's actually a really fun one. But it is very much a traditional side-scrolling Kirby game. The whole gimmick of it was it is 4 players. You can do 4-player local co-op. It seems like at least when I gathered from that, it is not online, which is kind of a bummer. But you can kind of play as the whole Kirby squad. So you can play as like Meta Knight or King Dedede or the Waddle Dee with a bandana. But you can also play as just 4 Kirby's. So
all Kirby's.
All Kirby's is also in there, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Yeah. It's a great port. They did show there is a new ability that wasn't in the original one. It's like a mech Kirby ability where he straight up gets like a mech suit and he's like shooting lasers. It looks pretty fun. And that's cool. That was a solid Kirby game. I would say it's pretty standard because I think the problem with it now is that it was fun when it came on the Wii, but then we had like years of 3DS Kirby games that were almost like a follow up and like a direct kind of lineage of games where like 3 or 4 Kirby games came out on 3DS that were in this style. So it's like, ugh, I don't know if I could go back to this Kirby style. Like, but
especially after Forgotten Land.
Yeah, Forgotten Land was a fantastic entry for sure, and it changed up the general vibe of Kirby. But yeah, if you didn't play it though, I would say it's worth it because it is a fun Kirby game. I liked it more than Star Allies. So
sure. I realize this is the 3rd game in this direct announced coming out on February 24th.
Yep. And it's also February 24th of next year. That's crazy.
Jesus, man.
And those are all Switch games too. Like they're all like all 3 of those games will be out February 24th.
Just in this direct.
Next
not including
year's.
all the games that probably like Capcom's going to to put out on February 24th or something. Like somebody's just going to put out a bunch of ports.
That fiscal year March, baby. They got to get it in.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get it in.
Yeah.
But that's that was like the other surprise announcement. Then the closer, the banger. We finally got it. Breath of the Wild 2 is now known as Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the sequel to Breath of the Wild. We got a new trailer for it. Alex is going to give a dissertation on it. But we did get a date for it as well. It is going to be May 12th, 2023. I will say, like, I was surprised. I was happy to get this, so I don't take this the wrong way. I was very happy to see this now, because I thought honestly we would basically like not hear about this, and all of a sudden they would just like kind of give us like be like, hey, here's like a full direct about Breath of the Wild 2. Here's the blowout. It would have been like sometime early next year, and then they would have given us this date. Like I could have seen like us not hearing about it today, then like I don't know, like in February they could have just been like, here's a Breath of the Wild 2 direct. They give us the name, they give us a bunch of info, and then they give us a date at the end.
Yeah,
I mean, I also kind of still think that'll happen, but now obviously we know we know the name, and we know the date coming. So now we can have like a better time frame of probably when we'll start seeing more news about this game. But Alex, how are you feeling? Let's hear it. Let's hear what you're thinking about this trailer. It was like another like little 90-minute trailer. Once again, It was one of those things where it was not a lot of footage, but it was enough, right? It's like it was still, I think, enough to be like, here's this, and this, or here's shots of these things, and you could see there's these things, and oh my god, what does that mean for this? So where do you want to start? Go for it.
I've watched a lot of trailer breakdowns.
Excellent. Yes. I watched 1 or 2 as well, so I'm excited to hear.
I feel like I've watched like a collective 3 hours of people just talking about it. The big thing about like Tears of the Kingdom and it getting a name. Also, I will say, great trailer. Nice, another teaser, like the 3rd teaser specifically. Yes. Like we can't even really call these like full regular ass trailers.
Yeah, we finally have a full trailer from these 3 smaller trailers, right?
Yeah, basically. The nice thing is, like, I said, like, I just want the name beforehand, I think, like, on the last episode.
Yeah.
And I thought that we would get it. I wasn't sure that we would get the release date. It is nice. I feel like they feel pretty confident at this point. They've gotten it to that point where they're like, all right, we can lock this down. When Breath of the Wild eventually got its hard date, it did not miss it. People were really worried that it would, but it did not.
Yeah.
The thing about, like, it getting the title and the date, now I don't have to ever watch anything about this game again. I can just now wait patiently, watch 30 videos about these last 3 trailers, and then, like, I don't need to see their full breakdown. Like, I know I'm going to be all in on this game, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But I feel like it takes context from some of the previous trailers and like reconfigures it a little bit, gives us a little bit more insight into what may be going on. The big thing, people have been, like, studying this, like, mural that is at the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah, yes.
A lot of imagery, a lot of great imagery, and Zelda's, I think, really good at good imagery and
mystery.
People are invested in the mystery. There's, like, this figure with, like, long ears with 7, like, weird teardrop looking things. Like, are these the Tears of the Kingdom? Is that, like, indicative, like, 7 dungeons, perhaps?
Right.
I've seen a lot of theories kind of thrown out there. I think generally it's one of two things, right? Either this is, like, a wholly new character, this weird figure, or it could be, like, the goddess Hylia is what people are thinking.
Sure. Okay.
Which is exciting, since we've never actually really seen Hylia in game. We've just kind of heard about her. And again, that ties more to Skyward Sword. The other kind of big bullet point in this trailer, like, that you might not have noticed, is, like, when we see Link running at one point, he's got this thing on his waist.
Yeah.
That is in place of the Sheikah Slate, and it's like looks like these little vials on, like, a container rack. Looks like there's 8 of them. People think that could be, like, either charges for his hand abilities are going to be. They could be the Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
People think that they could be, like, a container for teardrops, maybe. I'm not sure. I feel like I lean more toward being, like, charges for abilities or something like that.
Yeah, because I remember, I saw people mentioning that too. Because, like, they had, like, empty slots in it too, right? So you could totally see a thing where, like, you are maybe getting the tears, and with getting the tears, that gives you another slot in this thing to then perform some kind of abilities or get some kind of new power or something. Like, yeah, I could totally see that for sure.
We see Link diving off an island, which I think tells you, like, there's gonna be no loading between sky and ground, which is just so exciting. This really feels cool. Like what they wanted to do with Skyward Sword, and I think, like, a big thing that hurts that game is, like, the limitations of going between sky and ground. Like, if they had nailed that, like, I think I would have been a lot lighter or easier on that game critically, right? Because I think that would have just been such a cool execution. Now that they're doing it, and it's in a game like Breath of the Wild that's already so seamless, I mean, this is just gonna be so cool.
Yes.
Apparently there were patents that Nintendo made that showed these poses that Link makes, from diving to, like, arms out and stuff. So lines up with those. I don't pay that much attention to Nintendo patents, but the Zelda freaks do, and I love them for it.
Yeah, they'll find anything and everything, right?
Yeah, they show Link using the same power we saw in one of the previous trailers, where there was, like, a spike ball that he, like, reversed through time. They show him doing that to, like, a block on the ground that's in the Necluda region that gets, like, shot up, and he jumps on it to ride it up, presumably to a sky island, which is really cool use of that ability. I think they're already, like, giving us little hints of, like, oh, you'll be able to use all this stuff to interact with the world in ways that you like. It just feels like there's gonna be so many more interactions with things if that's, like, just a thing you can do.
You can just find this block that'll take you up into the sky. Yeah, could be really cool. Sky elevators.
Sky elevators, like using rubble as a sky elevator. It's funny because, like, I think of Elden Ring, which came out earlier this year, obviously definitely influenced by Breath of the Wild. And that game has a bunch of rubble that has fallen from the sky that we later find out is kind of part of like one of the, or designed after one of like the latest dungeons in the game that you get to.
Right.
Wouldn't it be so cool if like an Elden Ring you could like ride one of those up, and that's what this game is doing, which is very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
People had speculated that there would be 2 links, potentially 2 timelines or something.
Yeah.
But now
I don't think it seems the case.
Yeah, the trailer has shown kind of like this Link with his hair down and Link in his Hylian outfit, both in the sky, so that people have kind of dismissed that.
Yeah, I also noticed people saying that like if you can pause the shot of him in his Hylian garb when he's running, and you can see his right hand is like the robotic-y kind of like taken over by whatever it is hand. So like it is more than likely just, you know, these are probably outfits you get between. You probably get that Link kind of.
It's probably how his game starts, is my guess.
Yeah, you probably get that as like some kind of outfit from probably maybe this figure or something, or like something to do with some kind of thing that happens when you like first go up into the sky islands or whatever. Would probably be would be my guess as well.
Yeah, that's I'm guessing that like at the beginning of the game, when you're probably in like what the equivalent of the tutorial zone is when Link will have his hair down. He'll all be like matted up and messed up, just kind of recovering again as it seems like they like to do with this game.
Yeah, you're doing some kind of trial in the sky or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He also has like a new axe on his back when he's climbing up like the roots with his hair down. So people think that could indicate like it's a crafted axe potentially, or at least, you know, look at new weapon.
Yeah, new weapon.
And then like the last shot of him like falling on this weird like stone bird glider. I really thought like if you had asked me like a month ago when they did the release date trailer, I thought it was the final shot was going to be him like just straight up jumping on like a loft wing from Skyward Sword, and flying around like on a flying mount. And I think that still will totally happen, but maybe they
still totally possible. Yeah,
don't want to show that in the trailer, which I totally understand. But I really think that is a possibility. I would love that also, just throwing it out there, as long as it controls better. But we see this final shot of him like falling from presumably some sky islands onto this stone paraglider, but we get a nice pan out to the world. We see Death Mountain has like malice pouring out of it, which you can also see in the key art that they released for the game.
Yep.
Which is very interesting. Again, like, when I look at stuff like that, I am thinking like, okay, this is where the action is. This is where like the dungeons are going to be, you know, like put one in each region.
Yeah.
Because I think that'll happen.
Yeah. And it's something I saw in one of the breakdowns I watched as well. Cause I did watch them too. Not probably as many as you did, but somebody noticed in that scene where Link jumps onto that rock and is like kind of being lifted up with that stasis power. If you pause it and look when he's jumping onto it in that region, when you're in like the kind of like tropical region, you can see now in Breath of the Wild it was not there, but you can see now there's like almost what looks like a cave entrance next to that.
Yep.
So what I'm also guessing with like the malice coming out of the volcano now is there's probably now also like a lot of underground tunnels and things, because obviously, you know, you can see like you said, the mouse is coming out of the volcano itself, but also it's like lifting the Hyrule Castle up into the sky. So there's clearly like all of this stuff is coming from the underground. So I'm assuming there's a bunch of now underground kind of tunnel systems maybe underneath Hyrule, which that could be pretty insane if they are that far reaching, right? If like you can presumably like go underground in that tropical region and be underground enough to then like come out like, you know, in some other northern region of Hyrule or something. That could be really cool if that's how that works, or maybe even if they're just like simpler cave systems or something. Like I think that's like that could add so much to that world in a really cool way.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really curious like what the underground looks like. But yeah, like you said, we see Hyrule Castle kind of like what it actually looks like post that initial teaser that we got where it was lifting up. So it's not like all the way up in the sky, but it is floating above where it is, malice pouring out of it. It makes me wonder, like, because you're not going to do the thing where Hyrule Castle is kind of the end destination again. So I wonder if like maybe that's where you start,
Mm,
kind of flip the game on its head from the first one.
yeah.
Like that's where the tutorial area is. I think that would be really cool. But in that wide shot, we also see a bunch of sky islands. There's a lot of different shapes and sizes of them, but we see like this really big sky structure in the background. A lot of people are saying like this is like maybe a cluster of sky islands. In my head, in my theory, I feel like this is like a sky city of some kind.
Yeah. Sure.
Potentially another one of those dungeon possibilities. But yeah, then we get this weird stone glider, which I have no idea what that is for, what that means. Like if that's just like a means of travel or something.
Yeah, just like some
or
kind of
like
it's just kind of traveling around. I noticed like you can see in that shot as well is like there's like a big green like glowing like hieroglyphic symbol on one of the mountains below it. So I'm wondering if like that has something to do like if that's maybe like something I've been thinking of with like the Sky Island stuff is, and it's something also I saw in a breakdown that people had pointed out is that the oh god, I did literally all 120 of these in the original game, but the shrines, yes, the Sheikah shrines are gone. Like you could like the people like have like freeze frame some shots in the game in that new trailer, and like could see where one was in the original game is no longer there. So I'm wondering if like what that bird thing is maybe like a new base, like the equivalent of one of those like in this game, right? Like now there are these Sheikah Shrine-esque like puzzle challenges and things, but now you can find them as you like are traversing in these sky islands. And maybe like these like flying, maybe now like when you're running around Hyrule now you can see those kind of like bird gliders like way up in the sky, and you have to like jump down and leap onto one of those, and like that starts some kind of trial or puzzle thing. That could be interesting. I think
that makes sense for sure. Yeah, and that also brings in a lot of questions of like what fast travel is going to look like in this game, because all the towers, all the shrines are gone, which is cool. I'm excited at whatever possible solutions they figure out to kind of accommodate that. Like I said, Loft Wings, if they bring them back, I would be all for it.
Yeah,
but really cool. There's a lot more to digest there. I would recommend go look up some of these trailers. For the last thing, like the logo, which we finally got. Obviously, you get the Broken Master Sword with the weird kind of black and green or black and teal like repair section to it. People think that could either be like a new version of the Master Sword or potentially a different sword that is kind of parallel to it, that maybe like they have a linked fate, which is interesting. But the logo, we get these kind of it's a lot of Zonai imagery if you're familiar with the lore of Breath of the Wild, the kind of backdrop of it. A lot of those ruins are made by this unknown ancient race. Seems like this game's definitely going to dive into some of that history, but the symbology of that logo is very reminiscent of Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail, kind of representative of cycles of life and death, or death and destruction, or this and that. But also when you put that in the context of Zelda and you think about all the connections to Skyward Sword, you think of like kind of the general plot of that game as a prequel to the lineage of Zelda is setting up kind of like this cycle of demises, malice kind of becoming Ganon, and the hero being reborn to fight it, and Hylia becoming immortal and passing that power down the royal lineage line that would become Hyrule, and this kind of endless cycle that those three people are always in. So cycles of rebirth and death are really big in Zelda conceptually. The wildest theory that I really love, and I kind of hope is true, that people have thrown out there, is like this will kind of close the loop on the Zelda timeline and essentially round back around to being like a prequel to Skyward Sword in a way, where Zelda becomes Hylia again and the goddess, and then people are raised up and live in the sky and leave Hyrule, and then like it kind of loops and it creates like this endless loop of rebirth. I think that's a really cool idea. I think certainly the themes of the story are going to be about what is malice. Like we killed Ganon in like the last one. We've never played a Zelda. There's so few direct sequel Zelda games that we never really see what happens after that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Wind Waker being kind of the exception there, but even that is like weird, and it's not like fully 1-to-1 Ocarina of Time that it's continuing. It's got some different vibe to it. So this idea that maybe we'll see like the Malice be reborn into a potentially new enemy, or like come back again as Ganon, and like Zelda die and then maybe potentially be reborn as Hylia or something. I'm really curious, like thematically, if they're gonna like really shoot for the stars with this game. But I feel like with how much time they've been taking with it, how like clearly they know, that team knows that they made something special with Breath of the Wild. They're not like sitting on their laurels. They're really trying to up the ante and make, I think, a game that's going to surpass it. And whoo, boy, am I excited!
Yeah, I'm very excited too. I love that first game a lot. It's still probably one of my favorite games of all time as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see the direction they go with it, and just like a lot of curiosities, right? Of just like we still really don't know like the gameplay, a lot of like gameplay aspects in any capacity of like. There's probably still so many new gameplay aspects to this that we have no idea. Yeah, the evergreen question, the evergreen debate of weapon durability or not, and all that jazz of where that'll end up in this game. We don't know at all, and that was a huge talking point for the first game. As much as it, whether it bothered some people or bothered people not at all. We don't have to get into all that, but that's still a big mystery, right? Stuff like I think of one of the big things I think that came out about Breath of the Wild was like, hey, you could do the tutorial and then just go right to the end. You can just go into the castle and just go. Like, is there going to be a similar thing in this one, right? Like, what is that in this, and what is that in this game, right? Like, is it like like you said, like we're going to start in the castle. But then then the Malice is going to come out. It can, once that happens in game, can you just like go to wherever the center of wherever this is coming from and just try and beat the game, right? Like, can you do that in this one again as well? Like, who knows? Like you said, like we noticed we don't know what shrines are. We don't know how the traversal in this world will fully work yet. Like, what kind of mounts or things are going to happen? What kind of abilities you're to get, like we saw, like the weird, like like you said, he has that device. We don't really know the abilities of that device. We can kind of maybe guess, like we saw in that very first original trailer, was him like turning into like a liquid and like shooting through like a ceiling and then like standing back up on the floor after that. Like, is that one of those abilities? Maybe, I guess. Who knows? What's the weird creepy corpse from that original trailer? We don't know what the hell that person is.
Is that Ganondorf?
Is that Ganon, or like sure. Maybe that was the person that's like we're seeing, but like that figure. But now they're like all like in like a dress or garb, and now we don't. And like, could that be the corpse of that figure? And it turns out maybe this. But maybe they do an even crazier thing, and like you think Hylia was this good person, and maybe it turns out Hylia was this crazy corpse monster and the thing, and they're the plague on the kingdom or whatever the fuck. Who knows? Like we don't really know a lot of. There's still so many factors we just don't know about this, which is exciting. A lot of theorizing.
It's really exciting.
But
it's like. You think about how they talked about Breath of the Wild, right? And that was like obviously such a big departure from Zelda, just as a whole. And the way that they introduced that conceptually to people was just like, all right, here is the Great Plateau. We're going to drop you in it. It's really different. Go play it, and just play it for an hour or so. And like, I remember this first previews and hearing about this game, I'm like, this doesn't sound real. Like, this is crazy. Like, it is different. And now that they have like introduced those things to us, obviously pandemic times and all that are factors too, but like they have taken such a backseat approach to it of being way more coy about it. Like, they know all that stuff is a hit. Like, they know that stuff works. I think beforehand they were like, we got to get a temperature check on is this working? And now they know. And like, obviously Breath of the Wild is one of the best reviewed games ever. And I am just so excited to see like the creative mind at work. Like you said, I've talked about underground tunnels, potentially thousands of sky islands.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know how high it goes either. Like, it goes really high.
Yeah.
That's all we know. Dragons in the sky, mysteries underground, old areas reimagined, revisited, and on top of that, like, conceptually, what does it even mean? Like, the Master Sword is broken, right? Like,
Yes.
that's like one of the only things we know about this entire game, and it is like a huge deal.
Yeah.
One of the destroying like the most iconic objects in video game history, right at the gate. Like, that's how we're starting the show.
Yeah.
So I just, they're clearly pretty confident. I feel like they know they've got like something special in their hands, and I am so excited to like unravel all those little mysteries one by one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I can't wait for that. And I feel you on the like. I can kind of just shut off and not look about anything this game again. But also at the same time, it's like if they announce the thing, I'm presuming that like probably like I would say maybe March or April, probably more likely April of next year. Yep. Go, here's a Tears of the Kingdom direct, and just give us a big info dump. If they announce that, like, I'd probably still I know me enough to know I couldn't help myself, and I'd probably watch that.
Same.
But at the same time,
that's all they have to do is the thing. Like,
it's true.
And then it's over. Then it's like the game's out, and we're all like in the thick of it, discovering the mystery together. And that's the best thing about Breath of the Wild was when we were all like just going in separate directions and being like, "What the fuck's going on over here?" Like, you see this weird storm mountain, Yeah,
here's the world, and how's this world that like some people are definitely like us would be intimately familiar with. Like, how is it different, and how do they make that interesting, right? Like, how does like we could walk into this world and see, holy shit, what's happening in Gerudo Desert? There's crazy shit. There's a sky islands in Gerudo Desert. What does that mean? Or what do the people in this world think of this? The people that still existed, right? Like, what are the Zora going to think about the sky island flying above them, or the Hyrule Castle like soaring into the sky with Malice, and the Gorons now.
And
like,
what's changed? Since
so much stuff.
Like how much time has passed since the end of Breath of the Wild? Like, is Hyrule Castletown being like rebuilt?
Yeah.
Is there going to be
probably
new towns?
I mean, even if it was rebuilt, it probably isn't now with that castle. Up in the sky in Malice.
Unfortunate state for sure, but to see something like that would be really interesting. Like, and like you said, like, if there's no shrines, right? Like, how are we going to get upgrades, right? Like, how are we going to upgrade our stamina and our hearts and stuff like this? Yep. It's just so many questions.
Yeah, so many questions, and I'm sure we'll get answers soon enough here. But now we wait, right? Now it's the waiting game.
It feels much better to wait now. I'll say, like, I feel like way better. Like, it's coming out in May. Potentially could get delayed again, but again, I feel like they feel confident. I can kind of turn my brain off, like you said, and I just don't have to think about it. Like, I've got enough to chew on and think about, and everything about this just seems like it's going to hit for me. So looks very, very promising.
But that was the Nintendo Direct for September. I'd say we can give some overall thoughts here. I enjoyed it. I definitely think it was one of those things where there's a lot of people that, since we didn't get the Summer Direct, they were definitely holding all of their eggs in the basket for this to be this huge blowout of everything. And I'm sure there's a lot of rumors, like we've talked about in previous episodes, of like, hey, where'd the Metroid Prime remake, or this Zelda bundle, or other things, like this Donkey Kong game made by the Mario team. Like, where's all these rumored things? Is it finally going to be here? And none of it really showed up. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist necessarily, but none of it was really here. And instead, we got we still got cool announcements, right? We got new Fire Emblem, Pikmin 4's officially real. We got Breath of the Wild 2, Tears of the Kingdom now, fully kind of a name unveiled. It's coming in May. So there's still a lot of big announcements for next year, but then there's just a lot of middle of the road stuff. Like boy, there was sure a lot of farming games in here.
Yeah. If you're into that though, you were hyped.
yeah. That's what I would say too. Is like there's definitely a lot of nicher announcements, and it kind of made sense when like I saw a lot of people mentioning that like the week this came out, or this came out like a couple days before Tokyo Game Show happened. So there's definitely a lot of Japanese developer or Japanese like studios and publishers announcements here. So that lines up and makes a ton of sense why those would all be there, is because they're literally having a big presentation literally like a couple days after that, with the Tokyo Game Show. So it made sense. But yeah, it was fine to me. I thought it was a totally fine direct. And I definitely am looking forward to a lot of these games. What did you think generally, like overall?
I'd say this one is probably stronger for me. I'm like obviously a big JRPG fan, so and like Harvestella, like getting the demo for that was really exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I was really interested in this new Fire Emblem again because I was really hoping the next one would be a bit more traditional. It is. I do like the idea of like bringing some of the other past Fire Emblem heroes into like a Fire Emblem game proper, as opposed to it just being another Muso game or something like that. Those are fine. I'm not here to judge your Muso likes, but I would love to see that in a Fire Emblem game. Finally getting it. Cool. I'm like all in on Fire Emblem Engage. Like I just got put right back in that Fire Emblem mood.
Nice.
From earlier in the year. I've wanted this damn Breath of the Wild name for 3 years, so I'm like, of course you're gonna get that. But then you get other stuff like Tales of Symphonia Remastered. It's really cool. I was really excited to get the Crisis Core release date, which is very soon. More Mario Kart DLC. I'm curious what Pikmin 4 is going to look like. And I'm a fan of farming games, even though out of the group here, I'm probably only going to end up playing Harvestella. Yeah. And I thought Octopath 2 is a cool surprise. So yeah, I think it was strong. I know like it's always the thing of like, it's going to be, whatever flavor you're into, right? This is going to be somebody's jam, but not everybody's. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is with all directs.
Yeah. People are always going to overhype and over speculate and hope for the moon. And, it's always how the dice is going to roll for sure.
It feels like, and it is weird. Like, I feel bad for Jeff Grubb just because he got wrapped up in the whole Zelda remasters thing.
Yeah.
And we're all waiting for that. It'll probably happen at some point, maybe. But there's also like that Metroid Prime remake, which is apparently still very much real. It just was not announced.
Yeah.
So maybe that ended up getting pushed or something.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me, because like the whole idea of now that we know when Breath of the Wild 2 is, like, obviously there's still the looming of Metroid Prime 4 and its existence and what state it is in. So like I feel like getting a Metroid Prime remake, which does make a ton of sense, I feel stronger to me to being maybe a next year game, because I think once you get into next year and we get Breath of the Wild 2, some of the last few big bastions are Metroid Prime 4. Like that's kind of, I think, the last big question mark right now at this point now, right?
Bayonetta 3 is coming out in October, so like that's 3, the other big one.
Yep, exactly. So like that's kind of it. So like we kind of, that has to be in some state at some point, right? Like, and they can't, unless they just give us a video game where it's like, we canceled it. Sorry. But I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's happening. So
I think we will still see that Metroid Prime remake maybe next year in the build up to Prime 4 finally kind of starting to be unveiled, and maybe hopefully in 2024 that might actually be a video game we can play.
Yeah, I definitely get the vibe from this that we are in that, like, I think new hardware is coming. Obviously, we've been wrong before, but it feels really, really strong like that. I honestly feel like new hardware is going to come out when Zelda does.
Okay.
That is the vibe that I am getting, which would make sense then if you think like Metroid Prime Remake is apparently very visually impressive. That would come out kind of after that point was for new hardware, if this maybe Donkey Kong game is made by the Mario team and it's getting that big push and that big TLC, that could also kind of coincide with new hardware launch to get more people involved and stuff.
Sure.
And Metroid Prime 4 in addition to that. So that is what I am feeling. Obviously that's possible, but I still think that we will get new Nintendo hardware next year, whether it's before Zelda or after. I don't know. I don't think it matters that much, but it's going to happen next year. I really think so.
I'm kind of feeling that as well. I don't know if it'll be a true successor necessarily.
Yeah,
that's where I'm the question mark I'm at currently. But I definitely feel it as well. Of like, and again, I think it's not a necessarily like we're saying the games are bad or low quality, but they have that vibe to them, right? Of us like the new Fire Emblem looks cool, but it looks like it looks like it's just another new Fire Emblem. We're getting a sequel of Breath of the Wild, and that's very exciting. But also, it is a sequel. It is a sequel game. We just got Splatoon 3. Which I like a lot, and I'm playing a lot, and I'm going to literally play a bunch of it probably after this because I want to play in Splatfest. But it is more Splatoon, and they're just going to probably just do a bunch of free updates for that game over the next year and a half.
And we're getting like Mario Kart 8 DLC as we speak, right?
We're getting Mario Kart 8 DLC.
We're not getting Mario Kart 9.
We're not getting Mario Kart 9. Yes, 100%. Like we're kind of getting those like longer in the tooth of these franchises that have seen a lot of success on the Switch are now seeing a lot of these pop up. And I think that's because I think that, and we're getting these ones now because probably a lot of the maybe bigger teams, like you said, like the Metroid Prime 4s, like the next Mario game, whatever else they're cooking up at Nintendo are probably the things they're going to be able to push and say like, hey, here's why you want to buy this new thing, because these are these big things you've been waiting for, and here it is. Like if it's an entirely new Switch or it's some kind of the true Pro version it's been speculated around and thrown around for so long, right? Like I want to be back on that train to say that's happening. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. That's still probably a year away at best in my eyes, personally. But I think we could really start finally feeling like we're on the road to that, for sure.
It definitely it feels like the OLED was probably going to be some kind of update, and then it was just too much trouble with the whole chip stuff to make that happen. So
for sure,
it's the time.
It is
new Switch.
It is the time indeed. So we have a bingo card we made back in, was that our May episode? I believe we made it in May.
Our May episode, yeah.
We made a bingo card for the next Nintendo Direct because we thought, like fools, we'd have a summer one, but we clearly did not, obviously. So it's kind of funny now looking through all of these and realizing where the timing of all of these.
Brings up a lot of questions.
Sure. Indeed. I think we'll just go through these and basically we're gonna cross these off. We definitely did not get bingo, unfortunately, but I want to go through them all and see if we even got them remotely right. I'm seeing some ones we did get here, so let's just go across the top here. Our very first one, Chris Pratt speaks. Man, we were only a couple days away from that one.
I know. We know now that New York Comic Con is when we're getting the first teaser for that. I am so terrified.
Yeah, I am too. I am just very much not emotionally or mentally prepared for that to just be a real thing that people can see. I don't even know if that'll be
Charlie Day as Luigi.
Yes, Seth Rogen will laugh on the Donkey Kong. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that.
No.
And that's the thing. Like the worst part of it is this is what's going to really happen. Is it's going to be like viewable for people only at Comic-Con. So then we'll just have like the word of mouth of it, and then like just people be like
somebody trying to describe to you.
You won't even know, and it's just going to be sitting here just being like, God, this is worse. Put the bullet
I don't want someone else to know.
Yeah, this is just God, I can't. God, it's gonna be miserable. So Chris Pratt was definitely not in the direct, but soon we will have that horror upon us. Breath of the Wild 2's name revealed, and we did get that. Tears of the Kingdom. That was our second one.
Yeah.
We got the name reveal. We finally got it.
Great name. Also,
Great name.
Really
yeah.
great name.
Great name. I will say maybe it was a little bit overblown for them to be like, we didn't reveal the name because it's going to spoil something. I don't really know if that really gave anything away.
We still don't know what the fuck's going on.
We still don't know what the fuck's going on yet.
We have theories now, but it's like whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't really have the full picture. After that, I put 10 indies shown. I think we hit 10 indies.
Yeah, I think so.
10 indies. Like here, I'll go through again. It takes Take-Two is from EA, so I wouldn't really expect. We got Oddballers, Tunic. There's 2. Fae Farm. That's 3. Ib Factorio. So that's like 5. Rain Code. That's like Square Enix, right? Or no? I could be wrong. But then Rain Code. That's Danganronpa.
Factorio.
Yeah, Factorio would be one. Sifu and like Endless Dungeon. So yeah, I think we hit. I think there was 10. I think it's safe to say there's 10. Mario Jumps. That's actually a good question. I didn't.
I believe he does.
I didn't rewatch it to get the full thing, but I would not be surprised if you went back and looked at like the Mario Party, Mario Party, or the Mario Rabbids trailers. Like he probably jumps or does.
He does in the Rabbids trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, so. I'm pretty sure he jumps. No Metroid Prime remake. Said face, as we talked about a second ago. Miyamoto did reveal himself. Now we're on to the next line. We did get a Miyamoto peddling his Pikmin bloom.
I didn't think this would happen, and I'm surprised that this is one of the ones that we got.
Yeah, we got it. That was pretty good. Metroid Prime 4 teased. Definitely did not happen. Mario Muso did not happen, sadly.
Keep dreaming, baby.
Keep dreaming. New Splatoon music track plays. I'll say sure, why not? Because there was definitely Splatoon music in that. I'll give us that one. Advance Wars Shadow Drops. Oh, poor Advance Wars. Still just nowhere to be found. Oof. I feel like that's just gonna come out. I feel like they're just gonna put that out next year at some point. As weird as it is to say that, I think they're just gonna throw it out at some point next year. New hardware teased. No. Silk Song, sadly not here. No. We had GBA and Game Boy games on NSO. That did not happen. Still, I think it still will happen, but not
for sure. Here. That's just another big question mark. Like where is that? Would that leaked? Like the emulator leaked online. Like I just we'll have to wait and see. I guess
we'll have to wait and see for sure. But I still think that'll happen for sure. Wario did not fart.
A travesty.
Travesty, indeed. That's definitely even
cheated.
Even if we didn't get a bingo, if Wario didn't fart, I still feel like we would have lost. Even if we did actually get a bingo. 3 Hopes DLC. Actually, I don't think we did get DLC.
We didn't
in that. F-Zero anything?
Very surprised.
Of course not. Of course we did not get anything F-Zero.
Of course not.
Excuse me. Pikmin. Hey, we got Pikmin 4. Pikmin Bloom. We got that. So Pikmin is alive, baby. 20 Switch Snap Sounds. I'm going to say we maybe did. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know for sure. I definitely did not go count that. So I'll put that as like, at this point, it doesn't really matter anyway because we didn't get bingo anyway. But, we'll call it out. Waluigi in Mario movie, we still don't know. It could happen. It could happen.
New York Comic Con, baby. Look for it.
New York Comic Con. Wait for the Waluigi post credits tease, I believe. Tomodachi Life on Switch did not happen. I wish it did. I still wish it could happen. I want to see that happen because I think that'd be fun to get back in people's hands. Mario Kart DLC Wave 2. That definitely shows the timing of when we put this out because DLC 2 came and went, and then we get a tease for Wave 3. So there you go. I will say, I don't know. I guess you could technically give that to us. I don't know. Mario and DK team up game. That still sounds really cool, but definitely did not happen. Zelda remasters did not happen. Mario and Rabbids dated, so once again we did not have the date at this point in May, but we definitely had gotten it since then. It was not in this direct, but it happened before the direct. I can't try to remember when that did happen.
That was E3 area.
Yeah, because they do a mini in between the May and this. I think they did.
I think it was announced when Ubisoft talked about stuff.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But that also might have been just one of the tweets that they put.
Yeah, it could have just been a tweet. You're totally right. And then DK gives a thumbs up. I don't believe DK was in, unless he was in one of the Mario Party scenes.
No, I checked. I'm checking now.
Okay,
he wasn't.
checking now. Okay, good. Yeah, so he was not. He was not in any of that. So no DK thumbs up happened. But that was our bingo card that we made back in May. No bingo for us, but that was fun. We'll definitely we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that again in the future, for sure.
Yeah, these are so fun.
Yes, a lot of fun. But that was that's the Nintendo Direct. I think that's kind of all the news that happened for Nintendo since last episode. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, as directs are, they give us a lot of news. I don't think too much else in the news happened. One thing I will shout out, Mario Kart related, which I think was interesting. Mario Kart Tour on the phones, its next tour update, which is the first week of October, they're taking the gacha out of it completely. As in, they are basically what they're doing. I got this. I think I saw it going around making some news rounds when they first announced it. But you can go in the game now, and I saw it because it has like a little news tab, and you can go here's a message from the Mario Kart Tour team. They basically just said so with the next tour, we're introducing something called Spotlight Shop, and basically with the Spotlight Shop, because usually what happens is a new tour releases, and you get the new track or whatever track is available in it, and then that's free. You can just race on the tracks. But for the paid stuff is outfits and the gacha characters. So it'll be here's some Mario character, or it'll be a costumed Mario character where it'll be here's Mario and samurai armor, or Peach in a kimono, or all kinds of different characters and outfits, Mario characters. And those are the special gacha characters. And then there's carts and gliders and stuff too, themed around whatever tour or thing is going on. So now, in the Spotlight Shop, when a new tour comes out, you can just go into the Spotlight Shop and essentially buy the characters directly with the currency, rather than using the paid currency to do a gacha roll to roll 10 pipes. Is there pipes in there because you're pulling a pipe? So you basically
I'm pulling a pipe, Mike. I am.
Hell yeah, baby. But yeah, it's it's a gacha. So you do the thing, you pull a 10, and you'll get 10 random things. Well, now you that's being taken out completely. So you're not pulling pipes anymore. You can basically just now go into the Spotlight Shop and buy the characters or the carts or the gliders directly from the shop with the paid currency, which are called, I think they're called rubies or something. So that's happening in Mario Kart Tour. Also that same update,
that is wild.
They're adding battle mode. So battle, the balloon popping battle mode for Mario Kart. Normal Mario Kart games, standard Mario Kart games is now going to be in Tour as well in October. So there you go. Mario Kart Tour update for there. Yeah, I thought that was kind of surprising. I was oh wow, they're just taking it out completely. I mean, sure.
It's very funny seeing I remember way back when the Nintendo DNA deal was announced, when DNA bought a bunch of shares in Nintendo, and they were sharing shares, and people were oh no, Nintendo's going all mobile.
Yeah.
And Nintendo made mobile games, and they just clearly didn't like them.
Yep.
and except for the Fire Emblem one, which made them a fuck ton of money.
Yeah. Basically, you can clearly tell the ones that are still going are going because they make money. Right?
Yes.
So
like the Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem ones.
Yeah.
But them like removing microtransactions or gotcha elements from multiple mobile games just because they just don't like it is
Yep.
very funny to me. It's
Yeah.
one of the few bastions of conscience left in the video game industry, I guess.
Nintendo's just so weirdly forward thinking on that kind of stuff to do that kind of thing.
They're just happy putting out $60 ports instead. that's their
I mean,
get their comeuppance.
and then ultimately the Switch is just doing still insanely well. That is like one other news bit that happened is like, as we can I'm talking to it in games as well. Splatoon 3, like Splatoon 3, within like I think it was like 3 or 4 days, became one of the highest selling opening games in Japan. Period. Like
ever.
Yeah.
So 4.1 million units sold in Japan or something like that.
Yeah, like, and it was like within like a couple days span. Like, so that's like an opening thing in Japan. Like that is, and that's just Japan. That's like not like including like sales in the U.S. or any other territories. Like that is insane to hear that. Like that's how big. Again, I think it is one of those things, right, where like sometimes we can be just as like, you know, living in the U.S. and not being really tuned into other countries and regions and what they buy and sell really into. Like, well, I would have guessed. I mean, I knew Splatoon was extremely popular in Japan, but I never would have guessed to that scale, right? I think like a lot of people just saw that and was like, "Holy crap!" Like that's like Dragon Quest levels of like popularity, which is like insane to hear. But yeah, that's like I think that's like the highlights of the news. So we can get into games. Let's talk about games we've been playing on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of games
also
too.
Lots to talk about here.
Yeah, a lot to talk about here. So we mentioned it in the direct. Harvestella. I want to hear more about it because that's definitely what I'm. And you said you played through the demo. There's a demo on Switch now that you can go play. Again, it was revealed in this direct, and you can play it now and then have the save data transfer over. We did a viewpoints on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/irrationalpassions, showing that off. We played through the intro.
Get nice raw reactions of the story elements.
See checked so many anime trope boxes within that. It's unreal, but also like not surprising. Yep. It's totally fine. So tell me more about this time traveling anime girl. And how she gets involved in your farming exploits.
Her name is Arya. You learn that like a couple days later.
Okay, great.
So that's fun. We do just basically like the first day or two in the viewpoints. So then I played through the end of chapter 2, which is when it'll like cut you off. It's either if you get to 15 days played or which I wonder if 15 days is like how long the seasons are. So that would be probably like the end of spring, and then it would go into like quietus because that happens between each season. I don't know for sure, but that's just me assuming that.
Right.
Or you can play through the end of chapter 2, which is what I ended up doing. So it was day 9 was the last day that I had played. And it took me about like 4 or 5 hours, which is pretty chunky. Yeah, I like playing it. It is cool because it feels like in one regard like a JRPG, like an action JRPG, which with some pretty cool mechanics. And then in this other regard is this life simulator aspect of it, where you are kind of like living in this place near this town and going and harvesting crops and stuff and getting materials to craft items and whatnot. And like if you explore around like your little house area, there's like this big crystal wall, and it's like, oh, you need a level 2 bomb to break this. Or there's a big stone wall. It's like, oh, you need a level 1 bomb to break this. And it's like, these are things that you craft. It's like, oh, here's a broken bridge. You need a repair kit to fix this, which is actually something I learned to craft in the demo a little later on. So like, I'd say like all the farming stuff is pretty standard, but well done. It takes a lot after Stardew Valley in particular. It seems like the only way to sell stuff is to ship them, which is like end of day, you'll get progress for it. as opposed to you can't like go to the shop and sell them like you can in Stardew Valley, which is a bummer, but because then you can't like sell and just like get stuff rolling in that same day.
Yeah.
But
and do you feel that
a lot of
is that something that could like change in like because it's a demo, right? Like you could maybe in the full game you might be able to do something like that potentially, or
it seems like there are going to be like other towns and cities and stuff. So I think for sure
okay.
there could be places where you'll be able to sell stuff. I don't know,
Sure.
but I hope so. The only thing like that stuck out to me as missing or what I wanted more of, and it definitely seems like there will be more of this later in the game. And it even says like at the end of the demo is like after this point, after chapter 2, this and this is going to change. So look forward to this. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Nice.
There'll be more people to interact with. It seems like at the very end of the demo, after like the story bit, it's like your relationship with Arya went up by 1 point, and it showed like the point screen with them where you can get close. I'm like, okay, cool. This is
marry
like
the anime ladies.
Hopefully, God willing. But like it was like developing relationships with specific characters was the thing that I was kind of missing while I was playing it. But again, it was still pretty early on.
Right.
The big thing is after the end of chapter 1, which just happens kind of narratively as you're exploring, like Arya, who's like this lady that comes through a portal that she thinks is from the future, and that stuff didn't get any less confusing, of course. They alluded to a lot more mysteries. She's like, oh, I've got to go up to the big crystal thing that is like there's 4 of them apparently throughout the world, and each of them represents each of the seasons. So this one I think is representative of fall. So she goes up to it, and like then you go up to the base of it, and there's like a whole forest area, and that acts as like the first dungeon basically. So chapter 2 is you like across multiple days, however long it will take you, going through the first dungeon, which was pretty cool. Like, you know, there's multiple paths, there's like optional areas, there's like areas with higher level monsters where it's like, oh, come back later and maybe get some extra treasure chests and stuff. There are like shortcuts that you can make, like Dark Souls style. That it's like building this ladder will take 1 hour of in-game time. That's kind of like where the life sim balancing meets JRPG stuff. Kind of interesting. Where it's like, okay, well, it's 9 p.m., so I probably need to go back to my house soon, but I can spend an hour making this ladder, and then when I come back here, I'll be able to get kind of deeper in quicker, and then eventually you unlock these like crystals that'll let you just fast travel to kind of major checkpoints in the dungeon. So you can just like jump to the halfway point, jump to the 3/4 point.
Cool.
When you get to that dungeon, there's a character that you meet who is like one of those armored people, and you help her, and Dianthus is her name, and she joins your party.
Cool.
Yes,
I
of course, JRPG.
I was going to ask that because I know that was something we saw. Like we looked through the menus and viewpoints and saw like there would be some kind of partying up with characters. So I was definitely curious how that worked.
Yes, so she was in my party anytime I was in that like dungeon area. Which I forget the name of. It's like some forest name. And so if I would leave, she would just disappear, and then when I come back, she'd just be in my party ready to go. And so she would do magic, and then I would attack. And then later on, there's like a mini boss that you fight that's like this weird talkative unicorn. Not even kidding. And then the unicorn teaches you magic, or it like helps you awaken to your magic, and then you unlock the mage class, like the mage job. So then you learn to do magic. So the mage, like their basic attack is just like an ice magic attack, and then like one of their specials on cooldown is like a thunder attack. And you can switch jobs on the fly in combat. So you can switch from fighter to mage, and then the job that you came from then goes on cooldown for like 30 seconds. So you can't like switch constantly. And the reason that becomes important is like when you get to the end of the dungeon, you fight the boss at the end, which is another kind of armored character. They introduce the break system, which is similar to like a stagger gauge or a stagger system. where you can attack an enemy's weakness and then break them, and then they'll be more vulnerable to all attacks. But if there's like different elemental weaknesses like thunder and ice and fire and etc. If you break, there's like a gauge in the upper left corner that will tell you like, is this their fire weakness? Is this their ice weakness? If you cause like a break on the gauge for 2 adjacent weaknesses, it like exponentially goes up. So like I did fire and then I did ice and then I did lightning, and I had all 3 broken at the same time, so they were taking like 3 times as much damage. So then I would do that on the mage class, then switch to the fighter class and get in and do more damage and stuff. And just by using the classes at the end of day, you get experience when you go to bed, and then you get job points after that you can then use to unlock stuff in the job skill tree.
Cool.
So it was pretty involved, and like seems like your party members will have some passive abilities that I unlocked like right at the end, so I didn't get to really see them use any of those that might help. And presumably they unlock new major abilities as well, but like switching jobs like on the fly and like using different things for different enemies is like, oh, you run into an enemy that has like really strong armor, so you have to use magic to do damage. Like all that seemed pretty intuitive and again, simple, but well executed enough that it was fun to play, and it was like pretty involved like mechanics system that I was really pleased with.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like ends on that little relationship bump, and it's like, okay, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. When can I craft the engagement ring?
Yeah, exactly. I just like everything about it totally clicked with me.
Cool.
The way it feels, like just kind of hack and slashy, the farming stuff, the going around town and doing chores and stuff like that. It jumped right to the top of my most anticipated list. I really, really dug what I played, and I'm very excited for November 4th now. So
cool. I definitely came away like now hearing that stuff. Like that was some of the RPG elements was definitely what I was most curious about as well. I like kind of how the party stuff works out. That's cool to hear. It has some interesting stuff like when you started mentioning like switching classes on the fly, like that awoke in my like, you know, something bravely default vibes of like our traditional JRPG stuff where I really liked that kind of class ability to like kind of level up classes and then kind of mix and matching those abilities and things. I really liked.
Yeah.
So hearing that like is definitely maybe okay. All right. I kind of like leveling up different classes and seeing what different classes do. So I'll probably maybe check this out as well. But I might pick that up on Steam on PC because I'll be able to play on Steam Deck. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, that seems like great Steam Deck option. Yeah. It weirdly reminded me kind of like Strangers of Paradise, just because that also has like the job switching on the fly and Final Fantasy style jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
But a little bit more my speed.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sweet. So I'll talk about a game I really liked, and it is Tinykin. Tinykin. Yes. This came out early September. I was provided a code for it, I should say. This is one of those things where I got a code for it the day I was flying out to PAX West. So I didn't play it till we came back from PAX West, and I also got COVID, so I was like kind of slowly going through it. But man, is it a fantastic 3D platformer? It's probably, you know, there's some other 3D platformers that came around recently, like we mentioned Kirby earlier this year, but I actually even like this more than Kirby, and I liked Kirby. Basically, kind of the simple kind of boiler pitch for it is, it's a 3D platformer that basically has you collecting Tinykin, which are in a sense very similar to Pikmin, which we've been talking about a lot this episode. And they are these little creatures that you're kind of finding in these 3D platformer levels, and each of them have different colors and different abilities and like just in a way that Pikmin does, like straight up there's pink Tinykin, and you can straight up use those to kind of push heavy objects around, or straight up just like lift them and carry them to places to complete various platforming objectives or open pathways for you in the levels. And you are in the levels themselves are straight up like you are in like a basically like Honey I Shrunk the Kid scene, as I put it in the video review I put out, which you can watch on youtube.com/irrationalpassions or read on irrationalpassions.com. Basically, you're in these big, you're in like, one level will be looks like almost like a kid's playroom, and there's like toys and bookcases and like a guitar on the ground. And you can run around these, and they're huge. Or you can go into like a bathroom, and you can just walk around this big toilet, or like open up you have to like kind of break in. You have to like climb all the way to the upper levels of a room by climbing up all these different up on you'll climb up these towers of toilet paper onto like a bathroom sink, and then from a sink you'll like go up these like weird like makeshift ladders that these like creatures have made in these environments, to then like get up into a ventway to get into the other part of the bathroom, which has like a big which has like a washing machine and like a big bathtub, and you can platform around those and collect these Tinykin. And they can do a whole bunch of different things. You can do, like I said, the pink Tinykin. Then there's like in the later parts of the games, you get green Tinykin, which are straight up like, they kind of like stack themselves onto each other as you kind of hold down the trigger, and then you can climb up them like a ladder to reach higher areas. There's like blue Tinykin, which conduct electricity. So you can basically like find like an outlet and like a loose cable that's, sparking electricity, and then you like connect them like a line that like takes the arc of electricity through them to solve this puzzle, maybe turn on a piece of appliance, or like help you open up a certain thing. So there's like a bunch of different varieties of Tinykin that you can use to kind of solve puzzles. And just it's a 3D platformer, so it's like I would say it's more in the vein of like a Banjo rather than it's Mario X2. Like it kind of blends a little bit of that, because like you are collecting stuff, but it isn't really like I wouldn't say it goes as hard as Banjo does, where it's like you're collecting jigsaw pieces and feathers and this and that. It's more just like you are collecting things, and I think the Banjo comparison comes from more like there's tons of like characters around these levels, and you are going up to them and talking to them and being like, hey, I need help with this thing, or like, hey, I got trapped in this thing, you need to help me get out of this. And like they're all like weird little bug creature people, so it'll be like little ant people or little like beetles and other like they're like human-esque bug looking creatures that you're talking to. There's like praying mantises and stuff, and they're just all hanging out in this house, and they've like made like homes and little weird makeshift buildings out of like all kinds of stuff, because you're shrunken down in this like big room. But then there's just like a ton of stuff like that, and there's tons of fun little creative puzzles that combine just 3D platforming, but also with that Pikmin style of like you have this huge army of little Tinykin creatures following you around wherever you go. And just I think it just is a fantastic looking game. Like the art, it has a really good art style, because it is like these the environments themselves are like 3D, but the all the characters and like the character you play as and the Tinykin and like the character you're talking to are all like 2D hand drawn art. And it's really like nice. I just like the visuals of that. It kind of blends. They've kind of blended it really well, and it just looks really nice. It's just fun, solid platformer. Like it just has a lot of fun ideas. It blends those things really well. It kind of just with the whole Pikmin aesthetic of it. Like it doesn't shy away from that. It is kind of evoking a lot of that stuff, where you're straight up just using Tinykin to like march along this pathway to like take objects. The whole premise is you were this astronaut or like the scientist from another planet, even though you kind of look like a human, but you've kind of discussed, like it kind of gives you like this little opening animated cutscene that kind of gives you the storyline of like you are the scientist who has maybe discovered that we are humans, but maybe do not originate from this planet that we're on. So you go in on a journey out into space to like figure it out, and then you end up like more or less crash landing into this big house, and now you are like a tiny shrunken person in this house. So it kind of like is a little bit of a mystery to that stuff, and like they do answer that, but it's like at the very very end of the game. Like that was like kind of like my one kind of main complaint, I would say, or I wouldn't say complaint, more like gripe, is like I really wish they had led with that a little bit more and had a little bit more mystery that you can find throughout the levels. Like it's one of those things where I think like once you do that, I'm sure if maybe I played through it again and I maybe looked for a little bit more context clues, you could see it now, but without some of that information that it reveals to you in that very end, like it wouldn't be as apparent. And I think I would have liked a little bit more of the like, oh, here you could have placed something like this to kind of give you an idea of maybe why you're shrunk down in this big house, and like clearly there's like all kinds of stuff around, like there are people maybe living in that house, and who were those people? Maybe those questions get answered, but maybe it's at the complete end of it, and they didn't really set up a lot of that. It would have been really cool if they had more set up to that. Is ultimately where I land on some of that stuff. And it's something I've really really enjoyed, and it's also not super long. Like I played it on Xbox because it's on Game Pass. I was provided a code for it. It's on Steam on PC, so I played a little bit there too. It is on Switch, so you can play it on Switch if you want to play it there. It's I beat it again. I probably put 8 to 10 hours into it, and that's for like 100% completion. You could probably beat it faster than that. It's just a solid, fun platformer, and it blends the like a bunch of fun things that I really like about 3D platformers with like that cool like kind of Pikmin army gathering and using them to solve little things really well. So I definitely can't recommend it enough if you're a fan of like 3D platforming games. It's definitely probably my favorite from this year. I just had a lot of fun with it. Has a lot of good vibes. And it just has a lot of cool stuff in it. So very fun.
Very good video review for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
people should check out.
Yeah. Video review on youtube.com/irrationalpassions, where you can also watch the video version of this podcast if you aren't already. Next up, you played excuse me, a couple more things as well. Give me this game like just came out today, so I don't know if you have too much to speak about it, but I'm kind of curious about it, and that's Shovel Knight Dig. Tell me about it.
Didn't get a lot of time to put into it, unfortunately, because like you said, it just came out today. Didn't end up getting code for it just because I had other things I was playing, notably one of the other games I was playing, so I was like, I don't have time to commit to a review for this. But yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, this is Super Nintendo aesthetic. This is not Yacht Club. This is another studio, and they're publishing it. I don't remember the name of the studio.
It's like Nitrome or Nitro something. I saw it too,
something.
But
yes, Nitrome. Cool. Very Super Nintendo inspired aesthetic, audio. Obviously, the music slaps. If you were not familiar with Shovel Knight, the music in that game is great. This is continuing that trend. It is taking the idea of Shovel Knight and some of the kind of concepts of it, and then turning it into a very what's the Downwell kind of Downwell inspired roguelite.
All right, now you're speaking my language.
Yes. So I appreciate how quickly it just throws you into, Shovel Knight's just hanging out, and then some big dude with a drill comes, steals all of his treasure, and digs into the ground. You've got to get it back. Got to follow him down. Cool. You follow him down in the tunnel, and then it's kind of like you're going through these like World 1-1, and that's like this mushroom area where the Mushroom Knight, because there's a whole new set of enemy knights for this as well. So it's kind of cool to get a little bit distance from like King Knight and all of them, because obviously you fight them in Shovel Knight original, but then in all of the DLC you just fight all of them again. This has like a whole new set of characters as well. I did the first boss when I played the demo at PAX. It's like Mushroom Knight or something, Foam Knight, or something like that. I haven't gotten to him in the retail version yet, but yeah, you're going straight down. It's kind of like, the trick is like anytime you jump, you're always digging straight down, versus like in Shovel Knight where that's kind of like a specific attack. So you're always kind of forced to go downward. So you have to kind of maneuver around that. To get like these golden gears, or kind of like the optional collectibles in each section of a world, which will let you get your health back at the end of that section, or get a random item, which is always useful. And some of them, they're very, roguelite-y style items. I've only seen a couple of them, but like one is like a magnet that pulls in all treasure near you, even if it's like buried in dirt or something. But you're using like the dig mechanics to like, if you hit like a block of dirt, you're like floating. As long as you keep digging forward into it, you can dig straight up, you can dig straight down. If you're in those blocks of dirt, which makes traversal really fun, and you have to kind of think about it in a different way, because like, again, you're always kind of forced to go down. The screen is pointed down. If you miss one of those golden gears, it's probably going to be impossible to get back up to it. And then like, randomly you'll get like these lanterns that'll indicate like little side optional bonus sections of the level. It's like, oh, like I need to get hit by this weird spore guy, and that'll make me shrink, and now I can go into like this small tunnel, and like, oh, there's a bunch of treasure in here, or oh, there's an item in here, or oh, the guy that sells items is in here, the guy that like lives in the treasure chest or whatever. And then maybe you can buy some extra items to make the run easier. Oh, like this guy here will sell me meat that'll temporarily increase my maximum health. Stuff like that to get further into the run. And then, from what I've been hearing, it has like the full Splunky style, like secret route that you can take as well while going through the different levels. And at some points, like at the end of a section, it'll have like, okay, continue to like 1-2, or like, oh, what's this other path that's locked right now? And maybe you'll get a special key that'll let you go down that path and potentially open new routes and new boss knights to fight and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, it is just like a really, really creative take on Shovel Knight and roguelite. And I'm really excited to play more. I really have only scratched the surface, and like knowing like there's a secret route and all this other more secrets to find. Like I just love that stuff, especially in roguelikes. So I will say, like, after a couple runs, there's like a camp that's like building on the left, and like new people are coming in. It's like, oh, we found this hole that's apparently full of treasure. Like, let's go check it out. So a bunch of adventurers are like coming to just hang out by this hole. And then there's like a shop as well that let you get like permanent upgrades, and an anvil that presumably a blacksmith will come and forge new armor that'll give you new abilities later down the line as well. So yeah, it seems like a whole new wonderful world of Shovel Knight and roguelite all mixed together. It's a really cool idea. Everything that I had played pre-release I was very into, and I'm just, the aesthetic is perfect.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Like I was somebody who did not really get super into the original Shovel Knight, but this one is this one definitely had me more curious because of the roguelite nature of it. So here's a lot of cool little secrets and things like that in that vein. That definitely makes me maybe want to check that out for sure. So maybe I'll also pick it up soon here. But since you weren't able to play too much of that, you were saying you were checking out something else. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero is finally making its debut in the West next week. I guess next week from when we're recording this, probably this week when folks are hearing it. So Legend of Heroes, right? I think I've talked about it a little bit on the show before when I was playing the Cold Steel games. Not old JRPG series, like mid 2000s kind of started. This game specifically was like a PSP game. big kind of arcing series of like there's Trails in the Sky is kind of like this first trilogy, then the Zero duology, which is this is the first part of that, and then the 4 Trails of Cold Steel games that kind of pulls in all of the elements from Sky and Zero, and then tells this big story of all these different locations in this continent. Very ambitious, very cool JRPGs. I would say they're like, I feel like it's rude. This sounds rude in my head, but like they're kind of like B tier JRPGs, right? Like they're pretty formulaic. You're kind of in it for the world and the characters, I would say. But they're good and they're worth playing for sure. So I, having played Trails of Cold Steel 1 through 4, like the characters from this game, show up in that game, and all the other ones, like I kind of am familiar with where everything goes in this story, but it has been really, really cool to finally like play it. And like, there's like a lot of references to stuff that happens in this game in Cold Steel. So seeing it firsthand is really cool. Seeing how they have like created like these interworking locations. Like I'll say to the franchise's credit, like each takes place in kind of like a different country, each series, and you really get to know those countries, and then like as things expand you get to take like that step back and see how it like fits into like this geopolitical climate across this entire continent. And they do a really good job at both that like macro scale of like what's going on big picture, and the micro scale of like what the characters that you really like are doing, and how they kind of get to the big picture things. So yeah, the Crossbell games is what these are. Trails from Zero, and Zero in something is like the next one. They've never come to the US. They've never been translated. This is like based on a fan translation that like fans did forever ago, and they just like pulled those people in to make like the official Falcom translation. I am less versed in like the other versions of it. It's on Switch and PS4 and PC. But Scott White, who has played this before it was like officially ported, said like the PS4 version, which is the one I'm playing, is like generally like a pretty lazy port. It definitely like, it's fine. I get that vibe for sure. It's just like a PSP game straight up ported to PS4, it feels like. Which like I'm kind of into the aesthetic and the classic vibe to it, so it doesn't bother me as much. But if that is a thing that you read about, apparently like the Switch version, the resolution stuff is a little bit better, and the potentially the PC version as well. But yeah, it is like you play like this group of 4 people that are head of this new kind of police division. Putting aside feelings about cops in general, this is very JRPG fantasy cops, so it's more on the up and up. And you're in like this big, commerce-based city called Crossbell, and just trying to help people out, trying to reform the poor name of the police division. It kind of starts from there, and then you get into the seedy underbelly of the city, the mafia, and like the kind of triad equivalents, and kind of go from there, and just like get very invested in this plot of like what does justice mean in this city and stuff like that. But the real thing that shines are kind of like the 4 core characters of the SSS special support section, and it just does a really great job at writing those characters and developing their relationships, and then building like this world through that. So yeah, I'm a big proponent for the Cold Steel games. I didn't super get into Trails in the Sky, kind of bounced off of that, but jumping into the Trails in Zero games, really dig it. I think this is going to be a really great entry point if you're kind of curious about those games. And I think it'll be a really great Switch game. So if you're looking for like a very traditional turn-based JRPG with great side quests and great characters, like this is really, really going to scratch your itch for sure.
Nice. That's cool to hear. Always JRPGs never stop. That is for sure. We got one final game here, and it's the doozy. the doozy. Splatoon 3 is out. We've both been playing it. And once again, we have a stream archive. It's like, I think it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Me, you, and a friend of the website, Eric Zapp, actually played some on stream. And we played some traditional turf war, and we played some salmon run. But man, when this game was announced and we kind of were in the lead up to it, I definitely was in that mindset of like, man, I don't know, this looks just more like a lot more Splatoon. That's cool, but I don't know if that's enough for me at this point.
Yeah.
Now that we're on the third game, but it turns out I started playing and was like, actually, you know what? Yeah, this is enough. This is great, and I'm having a good time. It has its hooks in me more than I thought I would. The point where it's like I definitely want to play some more multiplayer. I like that, you know, again, the big proponent that had me hyped was that Salmon Run, the co-op kind of horde mode style thing. It's available anytime, and that's how it works. It's available anytime. It's pretty easy to just squad up with friends and just play a bunch and level up and get some weird Salmon Run gear and get the weird fisherman suits and things you can unlock. Its own little rewards for that mode entirely, so it's like you can almost like pretty much just play that mode fully and get a bunch of rewards and stuff. And I think that's really cool. That's like they've made it its own whole thing. But then all the traditional Splatoon stuff is there too, so you can just do, you can jump in, do turf war. I really do like that. I think something that definitely is helping this one is that it's released and it feels way more fully featured out the gate than I think the previous two games did, just because now we have this fully available Salmon Run, but all the traditional Splatoon 2 or Splatoon multiplayer is there with turf war and ranked battles. And then, like, again, the day we're recording this is when a Splatfest has kicked off, so I definitely want to jump into that because I think that's kind of the one of the newer things from previous games is now it's like a 3-way Splatfest. So I'm definitely curious to see how that all works. But also on top of that, you know, the full single player campaign is there as well, and I played through all of that. I played it and completed it. And that's really fun too. It's, you know, it's pretty much like if you played Splatoon 2 previously and the DLC that came out for that, the Octo expansion, it works almost exactly like that, where you go from level to level, and then the levels are basically kind of more set up where you basically unlike before, where with the first two Splatoon game campaigns, the levels were more specifically designed around like, all right, you have this new weapon that's being introduced for this game, or this new super ability, and we're just gonna let you use it and it's like solve like this little kind of one-off kind of level that's like based around how this thing can work and how you can use it in certain scenarios. How Octo expansion works, and this now works, is there will be levels that do that, but also now there are a lot of levels where it gives you an option of 3 different weapons to do this, and the weapons kind of dictate like how difficult they will be, and you can kind of see that by like, hey, if you use this, like, you know, traditional, like, you know, Splatoon rapid fire or like auto rifle equivalent, you know, ink gun, in this scenario, you'll get this payout of like the currency you'll use to like upgrade or unlock, you know, your paths and stuff. But also if you choose a different weapon, like for instance, you have like a sniper rifle or like a ink like bucket slosher, where you use like the bucket to throw around ink. It'll be harder, but you'll get a better payout of this currency that you can use. So like that's kind of how this works, where like you'll jump into levels, and like there'll be more like puzzle things, or you'll have that option of choosing different weapons to kind of dictate. If you just kind of want to beat it, you can just kind of choose the standard weapons, but if you want to challenge yourself, you can choose these more difficult weapons, and you'll get a better kind of reward and experience out of it. And it's really good. It's you know, it continues that trend of like the single player in Splatoon is always really fun, and it's just ridiculous. Like it just has this.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of weird, you know, story elements I don't know if I know. Have you played much of it? Because I kind of want to talk about
I
it.
I am in the second island
Second Island. Okay.
of the campaign. But yeah, I have been introduced. The antagonists have revealed themselves, which
Yes.
are, you know, the spoilers, I guess. I don't know the three. It's Big
Yes.
Man
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
It's Fry and I'm forgetting the other girl's name. But basically, like the new equivalent of the like
the announcer
the
ladies.
announcer
Yeah,
ladies are kind of the antagonists of actually the campaign. Turns out they're like treasure hunters who have come to this place looking for treasure and think you're trying to take the treasure from them. So they are trying to stop you, basically. And I would
yeah.
say it goes. I would say in the final act of that campaign, it maybe even goes into an even weirder direction and has another twist that is quite a fun one that I really liked.
I'm excited.
It's kind of is revealed in the last part and then leads into kind of the final boss, and the final boss is like one of the coolest bosses I've fought in a while in a video game. It's really fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll say, as someone who I played Splatoon 1, just played Turf War. I don't think there was like a campaign for that game though.
No, there was.
I thought I played a good amount of Splatoon 2. Turns out I didn't. I played some of the Octo expansion for sure, but I just never really got into it. This is so markedly, this is like the most Splatoon I have gotten into ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played quite a bit of it. And yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what secret sauce they put in this one. Maybe it's just that like there's just so much right at the gate that I kind of feel like I have all these things that can pull my attention whatever which way. And Salmon Run is just so good.
Yep.
That I'm like fully in. I've played a bunch of Salmon Run. I've played a bunch of the multiplayer, the Turf War. I've played a good amount of the single player, or at least, you know, the beginning parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a tour de force for sure. Like it feels like the culmination of all the Splatoon stuff they've been trying to do and experimenting with. Definitely makes sense why this one blew up. Like,
yep.
I hope that this game gets supported for a while. Yeah, it's just like really sitting with the modes and stuff. Like it's like, oh yeah, this is really fun, and like these little challenges are really fun. Nothing about this game is trying to take too much of your time, which I really appreciate.
Yes.
Everything is like minutes or less, pretty much.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Given single player level.
Yeah, they've definitely nailed that aspect of it across these games. It was like it's such an easy game for in any of these modes to just be like, I'm just gonna do one more match, and then you end up playing like another like 5 because they're just so quick and you can kind of get in and out of matches really easily in the standard multiplayer and even in Salmon Run. Like I kind of like that Salmon Run is like you kind of do 3 bursts of waves, but you know, and which can be pretty quick, but you know, for a horde mode, granted, but because you can just get into them so quickly and kind of in and out. It's really fun, and I will say the one thing, and this is like been a thing in Splatoon since it's been a thing really, and I think it just holds less and less each game, is that like I really wish there were more maps and some things available during the rotations. There's a lot of rotations because even standard Turf War is like it's 2 maps for like 2 or 3 hours, so every 2 or 3 hours you'll get another set of 2 maps. And then another hour, you'll get another 2 set of maps. And like, I kind of wish it was maybe like 3 or 4, especially since like, I think they said there's like 12 maps already in the game. And like that rotation made more sense when there was way less maps in the game. Right now, I did wish they had a couple more maps available at any given time. And the similar thing with Salmon Run is like, since Salmon Run does have like multiple maps. Like I think I've seen like at least 3 different ones. In the time I played, it would be nice if that does that, because that's even lesser. Like I think it's like it takes like a full day or more for those to reset. But yeah,
a couple days, and those are like set weapons for Salmon Run as well. That's kind of like, I wish there was like 8 weapons maybe on rotation for that instead of just the 4.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll say, like, even in spite of that, like, as I played like 2 hours of Salmon Run earlier today, it's like, wow, just so many things can happen.
Yes.
In Salmon Run, like just
Yep.
there are so many variables. Like I think of modes that I begrudgingly play, like Gambit in Destiny 2 and stuff. Like, boy, I wish there was some of that like absolute variance like Salmon Run has in a lot of other like
video games,
weird cooperative modes in video games. So like it's like,
100%.
oh, it's nighttime, so I can't use my super ability, and also like these weird crazy zombie fish are coming really really quickly, or like suddenly oops all grillers like, and it's like this nightmare enemy is coming
nightmare
for
enemy
me.
or like I had one earlier today on this map where what they called was the mothership appeared, and basically this big huge spaceship like ship. It's not like, if you played it, there's like a little like mini boss like saucer pan that comes and you can take it down. This was like a straight up actual ship that was like flying way high above the like the little map you're on, and it's raining down these like cargo boxes with like with enemies attached to them. So like if you shoot them out of the air, they drop the golden eggs that you need to collect in Salmon Run to meet the quota for that wave. But if they make it to the ground, then they'll like burst open, and then like a bunch of enemies will pop out of them and chase you around. So like it was crazy, like a variant like that where I like that a lot too, where like you'll have one map, you have a bunch of variants of these maps of like sometimes that you'll start in this one spawn point where you have to deposit eggs, but all of a sudden all the water will lower, and this whole other like beach area or something will open up on the map, and then the egg spawner changes there, and it completely changes like where you're fighting on the map. So there's I love the variants in Salmon Run.
Turrets will spawn, and it's like we're just gonna send like a hellish amount of fish at you.
Yes, yeah,
and you have to get in turrets because God save your soul.
It can get pretty brutal. Yeah, for sure. That mode is like
really brutal.
It can just turn on a dime where one round of or one wave you're just kind of like, all right, they're just kind of slowly coming up on the island and it's fine. Like there's a couple bosses and that was tricky, but you're fine. But then like you said, all of a sudden you can just turn to a wave where there's just like a giant horde of mini salmon that just lock onto somebody, and it's such an overwhelming force if they're like you literally have to all squad up together and fight it together, otherwise you're just gonna get wiped. And it's super fun. But yeah, like it's again, since we're gonna avoid spoilers for that some of the single player stuff, but there's a lot of fun things in there. One thing I will talk about, because I think it's been an implication, and this is more about like you're getting like traditional collectibles throughout the Splatoon campaign. There's been a thing where you get these little hidden notes, and like they kind of give you like background and like something that was implied across all the games of Splatoon, where like these like this is like the post-apocalypse, and the Inklings are like like the basically humans and other things, like basically the humans like were wiped out in an apocalypse, and then somehow the fish and squid creatures and things evolved to a human-esque state, and that's where we're at now. This game and its collectibles gives you the direct like timeline to that, of like it was kind of vague before, and now you can like get these if you get all the collectibles in the single player campaign and do a bunch of and there's like there's like a little like log you're collecting that straight up gives you the timeline of like, oh, these islands that you're going around were basically like when humanity was wiped out and the apocalypse happened, these islands that you're on now was like the last bastion of humanity, basically, because they had fallen into this crater that where you can see like you see maps of the area like of this new I think it's called like Splatlands or whatever area you're in now. There's basically this big crater that was formed there, and the single player takes place like deep inside of that crater essentially, and these islands existed there, and that's how they were able to survive. The last bastion of humanity were able to survive in this, but they basically in their hubris of trying to just survive and other things were wiped out in their attempts to escape the crater when they shouldn't have escaped, because they were actually safe there. And some of their science experiments, let's just say, in the aftermath were left into the waters, and that's maybe, let's say, how the sea creatures were then able to evolve into creatures that could live on land. It's like they,
so wild.
yeah, it's wild that they straight up just like made a little backstory to this thing and like show like one of the last things you unlock, which, again, this is some spoilers, but it's not necessarily like, it's not like directed like, the story stuff I was alluding to, if it was completely different from, because it's more related to like the Splatoon characters.
The lore.
This is more just like, yes, like the weird lore of how Splatoon came to be, where like they have like an image that's like one of the last things you unlocked is like a precursor, like essentially Splatoon squid humanoid picture. And it's literally just like a human person, but it's just like has like a full on like squid head. Like you can kind of see that sometimes when you like, you do like the transforming of like squid into kid, and they're kind of coming out of the ink and they look like kind of like squid like in their faces. It's just straight up just like a humanoid version of this. This is the picture that it's just like, what? This is fucking insane that they just put this in this game. What in the world?
The people that make
Splatoon is rad.
Yeah, the people that make Splatoon clearly have just the most fun, and I love it. It's just, it oozes personality out of that game. It's like I feel like we haven't really seen a new Nintendo IP take off as much as like Splatoon has.
Yeah, for sure.
Since the Wii U era, and I'm just so grateful for it. It is clearly a pillar now, and I'm happy. Happy it is.
Totally, for sure. Yeah, and it's so much fun. We're definitely gonna play some more of that. I definitely want to hear your thoughts maybe in a future episode about that. We can talk about the actual ending of that game, because it's pretty fun and cool stuff. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it. We had a beefy episode, a beefy trip to Nintendoland. This time for sure, there's a lot to talk about here in September.
Yeah.
But thanks anybody who stuck through it we're at about 2 hours, almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. Thanks anybody who stuck through it. If you like it, you stayed this long, please feel free to leave us like a rate or comments on podcast services if you're listening there, or maybe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to check out our stuff. And also feel free to check out anything else. We have a ton of YouTube content go up in the past couple weeks, because like you said, we went to PAX West and we demoed and tried a bunch of games. So the not necessarily all Nintendo related or Nintendo Switch released games, but there's still a ton of videos of that, a ton of viewpoints, because a ton of games have come out. Like, I didn't even talk about Pac-Man World Repack. I played that, but I didn't play too much, and we really don't actually. We really shouldn't talk about it because it's a weird ass game. But I played it. You can check out the viewpoints of that. That's on our YouTube channel. By the time this comes out, even more viewpoints will be out. Like what me and you did one for Cult of the Lamb, and some other stuff that'll all be out.
Probably Shovel Knight Dig. We'll probably have one soon.
Yeah, we should definitely do one for that as well. So yeah, tons of stuff. Feel free to check out that stuff as well. We greatly appreciate it, as always, for coming and checking out our stuff. But that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
We'll be back with another episode in October. We'll probably, Mario plus Rabbids.
Bayonetta's the big game.
Bayonetta 3
and Mario plus
Rabbids. We'll definitely be back to talk about that stuff and any other Nintendo news that happens in that time. So yeah, see you then. Thanks again for joining us on the trip to Nintendoland. Bye. We'll see you next time.
Bye.